Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week one, day two of the UKEL Spring Split 2021. We apologise for the slight delay, but you are ready to go back on Summoner's Rift to bring you all the best the UK scene has to offer in League of Legends. I am Grant R, today joined by Just John, and we're going to be cracking straight on with the games. So let's talk a little bit about the games ahead today to show you. So first up, we have LDN United versus Mythos, and that's going to be the game we're going to focus on it for a little bit because both those teams have taken their first win of the season already, so very interesting time ahead there. And then second up, we will have Lucendi and the other team, which I've already forgotten. But Baby John, so there we go. Lucendi versus Vipero. My apologies, which is very much the battle of the strugglers to start the season. So very interesting games ahead. So we're going to focus a little bit on London United versus Mythos. Kind of our two teams that have jumped the gun a little bit, their first wins of the season. LGN having a little bit of a tougher version against Vipero, while Mythos looking a little bit more assured versus Munster. John, talk to me a little bit about these teams and who we think's the favourite here.
Yeah, I mean, it's always very hard to say this early on in the season. I think probably predictions would be with London United. But as you mentioned, Mythos looked really, really strong against Munster, coming out with a very strange composition, the Soraka, Maokai in the bot lane, Cho'Gath in top. And those kind of, I mean, I was trying to think of a more polite way of saying it than cheese, but those kind of cheese comps can be very useful in this best of one format because you can really take your opponents out of their comfort zone and then look to just close out the game with abusing these new items or something that's slightly odd, slightly different. So we'll see if they have a specific strat prepared for this one. But I think both teams looking strong, both teams looking to want to be competing for the those top of the table spots. So it'll be a really interesting one for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it's fair to say, in my opinion, I think London United are a little bit of the favourites here, but it wasn't an easy first game. They played Vipero. It took them 40 or so minutes. There wasn't much of a goal difference. Not as assured as we'd like. Vipero, of course, a strong team in the league, whereas Mythos, as you say, with that different bot lane, yeah, 35 minutes, but always in control. So I'm curious to see if there'll be a little bit of a surprise here, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we'll see something like the Soraka band. Of course, there's lots of different champions that can use this Moonstone Staff of Flowing Water combo that we saw coming out of the
DLS
Soraka.
special.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see it on a lot of healers, on people like Seraphine Soraka, but also on people like Lilia. We can talk about that if it comes up. We are playing on live patch, which is 11.2, so Soraka has actually been buffed. Not something I'm ever in favor of when they know they've got a problem with support items and they're going to buff a very obnoxious support, but that's what they've done. So, all you can do is play whatever the meta is. Um, if you're willing to go to those places and pick those slightly more unconventional comps, you can really look to get a lead in the leagues with like playing that more adaptive style. So it's really interesting to see, and we'll see if I don't know, maybe there's a ban coming out, or if um, we'll just see perhaps a counter that's been prepared to some sort of cheese strats like that.
Absolutely. Well, we are just getting into pick and bans now. As said, first game of the day, London United versus Mythos. These are two teams that 1-0, both looking to take an early lead in the season and get to the top of that table. I do want to touch on that, Soraka, as you said, John. Quite funny to me because in a season so far where healing's been a little bit broken, support line's been a little bit broken, Riot buffed Soraka. So definitely strong for either side, that's for sure. So curious to see, as you say, where they put that focus. Also, another thing to notice: both teams in their first game season played Anivia mid, so
Mm.
perhaps a little bit of prio wanting to go on that Anivia.
Yeah, both teams playing Anivia, both teams playing Graves as well. There we do see the Soraka ban coming out alongside Aphelios. So, I mean, to be quite honest, that is what I would recommend. Like if you think you have a strat that works against the Soraka, that's great. But the problem with these especially strange picks like Soraka AD carry, or Soraka bot, I should say, is that even if you have something where you think it works in theory, the amount of game time you have versus it is probably going to be insignificant to nothing because you're going to need to play someone, scrim someone who you can talk into playing Soraka somehow. Whereas if you're the team who's playing something odd, you can just pick it and then you get a lot more time playing on it. So I do like the ban coming out here, just using one of those three first round bans to get rid of Soraka. We don't want to see anything that's super strange. We want you to play as sort of as standard as possible, and we'll see if Mythos have perhaps something else prepared coming out as the Anivia ban does come out as you were alluding to earlier.
Absolutely. So just getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So the other thing I want to talk about, Tom, talk to me about these top laners, how they focus. Because the reason I say that is Extra Cheeky and Victorio are kind of two very strong players. Victorio has been named as one of the slightly stronger players out there. So their focus there, because Extra Cheeky, like, how do I say it? Really decent solo queue win rate. So on paper, a solid player against Victoria, who's looked really, really good in teams together. So I'm very curious to see how much focus goes onto that top side, as you say, compared to perhaps the bot side, where one could argue is slightly the weaker aspects of the teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite strange in a way because if we look at the solo queue of someone like Victoria, he's playing a lot of Renekton, Jax, Shen, these kind of carry tops, but his most played for this split happens to be Ornn, and he played Malphite in their previous game, so he can definitely play both styles. Malphite is someone you can play towards, but the great thing about tanks like Malphite and Ornn is that if you play weak side with them and they fall behind, they're still going to be useful. They're still just going to group up and ultimate. So we'll see what kind of style they go with. I think, as I mentioned, the Cho'Gath coming out last time from Cheeky is going to be hovering it here now. We'll see if. Okay, there you go. I was about to say we'll see if he does end up locking it in. So something that he's clearly comfortable on. He's shown in competitive already that he's willing to pull this out. But the blind pick Cho'Gath, and then they get a couple of bans here in the second phase to try and get rid of things that might potentially look to punish it in the top lane.
Yeah, it's worth noticing, in their first game against Vipero, London played Samira and Alistair. So Mythos have literally gone, you know what, we're just going to take that bot lane. No Sorakachi today. We're going to take away the bot lane that clearly they must feel the enemy team strong on, as well as, of course, good picks at the moment. And then there's some comfort in the Cho'Gath pick for the second time, which Extra Cheeky looked very good on. He's going to need his comfort against Victorio, who, as we said, is a very, very strong top laner.
Yeah, the Alistar Samira is a really powerful duo. Obviously, since Samira's passive got changed, it now no longer gives you the extra CC based on any other CC, but it give you the extra CC based on knockups. So that obviously favors people like Alistar over something like Leona. But the other reason it's really strong is if you're playing Alistar into the Samira, she can't block your combo in the same way that she can block Leona E, she can block Thresh Q and stuff like that. So it's a pick away at the same time. So if, for example, they'd have gone Samira Leona, then London United are just going to answer with the Alistar, and that's going to be much worse for the Samira. So fairly standard sort of trade of the bot lane. Normally, we don't actually see Kai'Sa with Thresh that often. Normally, you take some more specific like Engage and some CC, something like the Leona, but wanting to take the Thresh into Alistar to give them a bit more lane priority, try and combat this powerful duo of the Samira Alistar.
Absolutely. And some of the bans come out, see Mordekaiser and Malphite and the sound of Mythos there. They want to target Victoria, who played Malphite last time and looked very assured, as we said. So makes it Vi as the jungler, however, picked up a little bit more CC and engage options. Together with the Alistair, it certainly gives a lot of ability for Samira to be hitting her passive off and moving into those fights. Not sure I've seen much of a Vi in this season.
No, not something we see picked up all that much, but exactly for the reason you said, right? They just want to go all in with Samira. Samira is a slightly odd AD carry in that you can play Samira as a dive champion as well. So they've got the Cho'Gath who's just going to be running at you. They've got the Alistar who's going to be wanting to get in there. Now they pick the Vi as well. They're all just going to jump on one person, and Samira is going to have lots of ways to knock people up and ways to use a passive. Because of that, actually, I do really like the idea of the Lissandra coming out from Articuno here, from London United, because if you're engaging onto a champion like that, she provides a lot of zone control and a lot of CC. If she can go forward and maybe even self-ult, it gives time for people like Kai'Sa to pump out that more consistent damage in the backline. Whereas Mythos here, rounding out their comp with the Galio, exactly what they want to do. I really, really like comps like this, where potentially you look in the LEC and you say, okay, they don't want to ever go all for poke or all for dive or something like that. Therefore, that must be the best thing to do. But that's only because when you're competing at that top level and with players with a lot of experience, you want to have different options in case one option gets sort of too countered. But what I like here from teams of this level is let's just go all in on the dive. When we go, like when Vi ults someone, we are all going, like Samira's going to be jumping in, Galio's going to be jumping in. We're all running at you. So that's exactly what it's very good to see coming out from the side of Mythos, have that very specific style. And I mentioned I really like the Lissandra pick coming out from London United, rounding their compact with the Ornn as well for some engage themselves. But you do have people like the Lilia, people like the Kaiser, who, if some of this dive gets on them, if the Vile, can be just channeled onto them, if they don't have the Zonyas or the Banshees or something like that later on in the game, they're just going to get one shot by this 5-man dive comp.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to say. Kaiser and Lilia on the side of London United, usually looking strong for their mobility. Kaiser goes a little bit invisible. Lilia's just got 4 legs and runs very fast. When you have a point and click CC from Vi, followed up with an Alistair point and click, and the Galio can then ult in. If there was ever a way to lock down these sort of speedy mobile champs, which has been something that's been just sort of very acute for the start of this season, is how quick the game is in terms of mobility and speed. This is the comp to do it. At the same time, you miss it or you mess it up. Lissandra can provide good peel. The Ornn has got a form of engage or a form of peel. Lydia and Kaiser survived that initial dive, I guess. It's going to be hard to lock them down for a second time. So very good to see how they do it. And as you say, London United have the tools in their bag to also force the engage themselves. So perhaps it's going to be a bit of a dance to see who wants to start the fight and whether they get the upper hand by doing so.
Yeah, I mean, if we're coming into the mid game with the teams on even goal, a lot of this game can depend on who pulls the trigger first. If Ornn is ulting your team, it's actually much harder to organize a dive. Where if you're the ones being aggressive and you're the ones choosing when we're going to fight, then it becomes much, much easier for a team like Mythos to just all in someone, as you mentioned, just basically throw everything on Lilia, throw everything on Kaiser. We saw even when Lilia was, first released, then potentially even in a stronger position, Alistar was the thing that you would pick into it because, again, you can't dodge the combo in the same way that you can just run around and dodge the Leona E or the Leona ult. So it'll be very much about who can get to objectives first. If you're face checking into either of these teams, it's going to be you're basically going to be at a disadvantage because if you're face checking into the likes of Ornn, then to organize, okay, how do we get past the Ornn and get onto the back line while he's running at us with this big ram? That's going to be much more difficult than if it's the other way around.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to focus on, which is what I was seeing in the last games, is how critical these junglers are, both just in the next season, but how Dunlosi and Marwa really open up their teams to their games. Bit of a different situation here. In the mid lane, you don't have these sort of heavy damage, high mage or high assassin styles. You've got, more controlling and lower damage, much more about the engage options and the CC options. So, yeah, and you actually have the same with the top lanes. The reason I say that is where are the junglers going to look to kick off this game?
I mean, bot lane is always, with Samira, is always going to be quite a spicy lane to get to. Again, as we mentioned, she is that kind of AD carry who wants to dive in, almost like a Katarina kind of thing, but with just a little bit more range. So I expect to see them spend a decent amount of time there. Vi, of course, has much stronger ganks than the Lilia, especially pre-6, although obviously the Vi 6 is very easy gank setup as well. So I expect to see Lilia just look to farm. A lot of the reason why champions like Lilia, Talia, Graves, Nidalee are so strong in this meta is if you play against a champion who needs to get stuff early done like Vi does, and you just don't let her get any ganks off, then Lilia is going to build up a massive lead. And then you're in a situation where whenever both the junglers are in a fight, your jungler has like a level or even 2-level lead on the enemy, and then you're going to win any skirmishes that they're both a part of. So it's this early game is going to be about, can Dunlosi use the power of stuff like the Cho'Gath pick, like the Galio pick in the mid lane, use that setup to get anything off, get off ganks, and get his laners ahead? Or is Mawa basically just going to churn through the jungle and pick up a lead that way by just the speed of Lilia's clear?
Absolutely. I want to see a 5-man dive at 10 minutes in. I want to see them all in the bot lane getting somewhere ahead, because one thing as well I've noticed is as these junglers try to get perhaps these ADs and bot lanes ahead, so much pressure is on Samira, because you would argue it almost reminds us like pseudo protect the Cogmore comp, even though without healers, because they have that one key source of damage. So we'll have to see. But in the meantime, we are getting into game. This is London United versus Mythos. On the side of London United, we have Viperio on the Ornn. We have Marwa on the Lilia. We have Articuno on Lissandra. We have Kumkum on the Kaiser. And rounding it off, we have the Heathen on Thresh.
And on the side of Mythos, we have this dive comp. As we mentioned, it's extra cheeky on Cho'Gath, Dunlosi on Vi, Manrobo on the Galio in mid lane, and Agentau and Alcarath on Samira Alistar in bot lane.
Amazing. So a bit of a standard start here. As said, these are both teams sitting at 1-0, wanting to get ahead, wanting to try and find themselves at the top of the table. And again, I'm going to go back to the jungle strong because you talk about how much it's important is they open up the game here, especially for that bot lane. What's the priority that they need to do, especially on the side of Mythos, to get that Samira ahead on the Vi and stop Lilia at the same time?
I mean, one of the things that is so oppressive about the Lilia is literally just her clear speed. You'll see her starting solo on the Raptors with that Q, able to spam that ability very early on, tick damage on all the different monsters in that camp, allowing her to regen with the AoE Omnivamp now that comes out from the jungle item. And so basically, if Vi can't get some ganks off, she has obviously a lot of setup in every single lane, then Lilia is just going to naturally generate a lead. Even if we don't talk about I don't think there's going to be much going on after that trade. But as I mentioned, even if we don't look at the Lilia invading, she's just going to be able to generate a lead by just farming camps quicker, sequencing all her camps together to just be as efficient as possible. Whereas what Vi needs to have happen is they need the laners to be very aggressive, like what is happening in the bot lane as level 2 comes out. And we'll see if Dunlocy looks to capitalize on this pushing up bot lane on the side of London United. But I think they're going to play safe enough and use their priority to go and get a ward.
Yeah, very smart moves. They're going to try it and spot out Dunlocy here, put that in the river. They know they're now safe from the Vi. Try something cheesy at the level 2, level 3. However, she's moving more towards top side. Meanwhile, on the top side, while we're there, Viperio doing a great job of controlling this lane early, already getting a bit of CS lead as that wave pushes in, wants to have control. They know where Vi is. I say that she may have actually dodged the ward. So as we look towards the bot lane here, Dunlocy is actually going to be coming in behind them, and they do not expect this. They've just now realized she's there. It's flash forward. Alistair's going to try and knock up. The Samira passive goes up to follow, but a good flash away from Thresh keeps him alive. Now they're trying to turn it onto Arthurath as he walks away. Good return damage. Flash for Ignite. A good trade of summoners for the side of Mythos. So giving a little bit more control for the Samira, and very, very smart pathing from Dunlocy.
Yeah, very aggressive pathing though, and if Marwa is on his game here, it's going to cost Mythos a huge amount. He should lose both his topside camps potentially, and that would put the Vi very, very far behind. So creative way to get into that bot lane, but because the Thresh is such a good peel back champion, able to flash away after that flash coming out from the Alistar, and then still have some peels, the Flays able to put some damage back onto Arthurath. I mean, as Lilia's coming in to take the Raptors here, I mean, I don't think in the end the gank is going to be worth it as a good capitalization from the side of London United.
Absolutely. So we are 4 minutes into the game. We are actually going to see Mara and Lucy. Looks like they did just about see it, but Extra Cheeky's actually moved. They are trying to catch Mara. Flash away immediately. Get a little bit of healing off on the Krugs, going, absolutely not. I do not want to be a part of this. Good move for Extra Cheeky. Dunlocy did spot Mara out, and so good movement there to take over. So far, Summoner wins for the side of Mythos, and London haven't quite got kicking off as they wish.
No, I mean, one camp taken away from the Vi for that. I feel like Mara didn't need to be quite so scared on that flash. As soon as the knockup is missed from Exachika, I think as a double kill comes in bot lane.
Okay, well, that happened. Just as we were praising the side of Mythos, Agent Tau and Arkrath dropped down double kill for the side of Kum Kum and the Heathen. Not sure what happened there, but that's going to immediately translate into 1.5k gold lead. And if you're talking about how important this Samira is to try and get ahead and have the damage for this game, that is not the start you can afford to have.
Yeah, I really have no idea how that was actually able to happen. I mean, Cleanse is still up from the side of Agent Tau, so I assume it's not just a hook coming in. So very, very big swing as they look to fight on this dragon as well.
Yeah, they actually don't want to give up the dragon. Arthur goes up, gets the knockup onto the Heathen, not the one they want. Now they're trying to turn onto the Vi as Dunlocy dives in. TP's coming in from both sides. Look at that. First death goes down on the jungler. Marwa is out of this fight as they're now trying to kill the Kai'Sa. They are going to kill the Kai'Sa. Really good TPs. 4v3, but look at the damage coming out. Doesn't matter, though. It's actually looking like it's going to be an ace for the side of Mythos. Huge work. They got the ADC down. They used the damage to translate that across onto the Ornn and the Lissandra. Amazing work. And a 5-for-1, it looked like, in the end for the side of Mythos. What a start for them 6 minutes into the game.
Absolute disaster for London United. A really great play in the bot lane, but this early on, the respawn times are so short that you don't actually have time to come and do that dragon. I mean, you're literally talking about 2v2 double kill at level 4 that ends up going bad for you. Like, that's, yeah, I mean, it's just the absolute worst case scenario for London United. So pushing way too far with that, going for the Cloud Drake, not even able to pick it up, and just basically giving Mythos exactly what they wanted. They want to fight before Lilia has generated a big lead onto the Vi. Look, already she's got 10 CS up. Already she's starting to overtake in levels. What you just need to do is you need to wait until Lilia is stronger than Vi, and then you want to fight. At this point, this is exactly what Vi needs. He's now 202. Straight back in the game in terms of all that farm she lost early on. And Lilia is going to take a huge amount of time now before she gets to a point where she's stronger, if she ever does. So exactly what Mythos wanted. They wanted these early skirmishes. They wanted to use the CC they have from the Cho'Gath, from the Galio. I mean, every single person other than Samira has CC and has knockups to allow Samira to just dash around. And that's the perfect fight for Asian Tao, and he's able to capitalize on it.
Absolutely. Well, as said, you thought it was a gold lead for the side of London United. That is now gone, as all that CC on the side of Mythos gets him back in the game. So funnily enough, despite the 5 kills, it actually puts the gold a little bit back as even as that first double kill on the bot side, making it more matched up. And now the game probably has slowed down. I imagine London United feeling a little bit bruised, a little bit damaged after that, wanting to take the game probably a touch slower after seeing that. There is a CS lead in the side of the jungle for Marwa, but of course that is matched up with Via on 2 kills for Dunlosi. So gold probably swinging the other way there. And one thing to note as well is how strong Extra Cheeky got as a result of that fight. 1 kill, 3 assists, as Viperio was trying to dominate this top lane. Extra Cheeky now has that gold in his pocket, and that's shown in the items he has, as we actually forget that, because Dunlosi's coming to the bot side, is level 6. You can see the ult come out. Flash forward to knock up onto the thresh. They want to immediately take down Heathen, who cannot get out of this fight. Now the stun comes out for the side. Lilia, sleep goes in. That's going to land on 2, actually. Somehow Heathen is still alive, but they're going to take that Arcrat. It's a trader support so far, as Agent Tao's now fighting Marwa. They turn immediately onto jungle. Down goes Marwa. Can Kaiser, Kum turn this around instead of himself? 2 goes on, chasing them away. They're running away, Mythos, battered and bruised, but they do walk away with the kills in their pocket. A 2-for-1. Both supports and the jungler for the side of London United going down.
Still not quite as clean as we would like from the side of Mythos. Vi coming in with the 6. They just needed to make sure they get that first kill. I mean, Samira gets a reset after that. You can then turn on to someone else, but everyone left the Thresh alone. He's able to get off 2 more rotations of his spells and basically allow London United to pick up a kill in return. So again, you know, we need to see Mythos forcing, which is exactly what they're doing. They're able to generate a gold lead like that. But we just need to see from the side of London them calming things down a little bit, not forcing everything. Anytime they have a slow push, they need to be aware that Dunlosi could be looking to use that vial on someone in the lane. So a little bit safer from them, and they'll generate leads based just on the farming. Looks like we're going to see a swap coming out from Mythos to take this Herald, which hasn't been answered, so they will be able to just pick this one up as well and potentially look for something on Viperio as well in the meantime.
Yeah, Viperio hasn't noticed lane stop coming. He's getting greedy to try and stop the lane. Uses the dash away. Nice flash to dodge Vi, but the ultimate comes out. Unstoppable into unstoppable. It's the bounce house as up goes Viperio. Stun comes down from Alice off. They do have enough damage to go. Forward goes Samira to try and pick up the kill at Agent Tao, but Dunlosi closes out. That is a 3 and 4 Samira. 3 and 4 Vi, and just a little bit greedy from Viperio there.
Yeah, it looked like no one on the side of London had called out this potential swap, and good capitalization from Mythos. You know, you need to obviously be aware of the fact that from that 8-minute to 10-minute mark, the swap coming out from the enemy bot lane can be really punishing. So London's setting up a freeze on the bot side. They're generating a lead that way, but Viperio not respecting on the other side of the map means that Mythos can capitalize and probably take a bigger advantage in a situation where they basically had a free freeze on the bot side.
Oh, and
he comes back, he's going to die again.
Dunlosi's not done. Doesn't have the unstoppable ultimate this time. Viperio knows something up. Does have the Ornhorn in the back pocket, just in case. They is going to walk away. So they're going to give up a lot of plates on this tower. Viperio walk with this wave, you imagine, and push away. So on the other side, London United see the chance. They know the jungle's to go. That is our Drake as they pick up the Earth Dragon. The Earth Dragon? The Mountain Dragon. That's a couple of seasons old, the Earth Dragon. Mountain Dragon gives them a little bit more shielding and health. Meanwhile, Rift Herald will be spawned top lane, so they are effectively just trading objectives, but definitely a win for the side of Mythos because all those plates in the back pocket with that Rift Herald will certainly help them. And one thing I'm going to point out, John, which is making me quite excited for how this game's going to go. We spoke about on both teams how important the AD is. Well, on one side, you've got a 3-1 Kai'Sa, first item and 20 CS. On the other side, you've got a 4-1 Samira who just got 4 plates in the back pocket. Talk about both teams having their carries ready to take on these fights.
Yeah, it's going to come down to exactly what we talked about in the draft. I mean, Mythos have got this 2,000 gold lead, so definitely in the driver's seat, picking up all those plates. As you mentioned, absolutely worthwhile to give up the Dragon for an entire first tower, most of it on Samira. But it is all going to be about if that one target dies, then Mythos are going to look to steamroll the rest of the fight. Resets coming in from Samira, able to stack up her passive, able to get those potentially multiple ultimates off. But if that first target doesn't die, then Kai'Sa on the backline is going to be able to put out a huge amount of damage, use that killer instinct to jump in, assassinate people, and sort of turn the fight around. So it's all going to be about target selection. It's all going to be about whether they're on the same page. And this build coming out from Marwa, providing more sustain, the Moonstaff, as we talked about, Moonstone Renewer and Staff of Flowing Water, potentially. If the fight goes longer than 10 seconds before it's been decided, then it will be probably in the favor of London United. But if one person just insta-dies, Mythos will be able to just steamroll the rest of it.
Absolutely, just see some pressure coming down. I just want to point out to the viewers at home that there is a mid lanes game. Forget that though, because immediately they're trying to do the dive. You spoke about this, John. The dive is the way it works. Look at the way they take down the Kai'Sa. That is how the fight. Now the team is coming. Ornhorn will knock up 2 in the backline. They have got a lot of damage on Dunlosi. Now goes the jump forward at this time, but Samira is alive. They are a little bit split. Out comes the nut from Lilia, and they are going to try and walk a bat and bruise. I doubt the Mythos want to take, London United want to take on the rest of this fight. They're a little bit bruised. Managed to get a 1-for-1 in the end, but it is ADC for jungler. Mythos doing what they need to right, but just botching it a little bit to trade it.
Yeah, I mean, double TP coming out from the side of London United, so good response from them. They needed to commit everyone down there, otherwise that was going to turn into an absolute disaster. Slight mechanical misplays coming out from the side of Mythos to not capitalize on that massively, but they do have now the teleport advantage in the mid lane, so they can actually just rinse and repeat that and commit more members down here as the resets come through from London, so they're just going to lose more plates. Decided to give it to Cheeky actually as well on the Cho'Gath, so giving him a little bit more gold to come into that top lane. Both top laners with TP down. Probably an advantageous position for Mythos as their backs are going to be slowed, but I don't think anyone can die here.
No, it does look like Mythos have got out alive. And as you say, look, while the mechanics is one aspect, I love the energy from Mythos. I love the fact they're willing to pull the trigger. They know they need to dive this comp. They see Kumkum a little bit separated, and bam, there they go, pulling triggers. Articuno actually taking a little bit of tower hits here, gets away alive. So loving that sort of lack of hesitation. Bam, in they go. They know that they want to dive. They pull it off. So if we see that kind of energy from Mythos still going forward, it's just going to give them more and more control of this game. If they can absolutely take out one of Kumkum or Marwa before the fight basically even starts with the amount of click CC they have, well, then it starts to become a little bit of an easier fight and reliant more on London United mechanics turning it around. And all of this just translates into a 2k gold lead for the side of Mythos, and this draft really coming through strongly.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we talked about in Champ Select. The power of what these comps where you're just all geared to do this one thing. And so they are able to set up a dive, potentially not taking enough care with the teleports and that kind of thing, but it doesn't matter because they've picked for all one specific style. And this is what I'd really urge teams of this level to do, is that you play for one specific thing that you're going to do much better than the opponent. Even if you've not got a big gold lead, you still know that we're going to be better in a dive. And that was pretty much 5-5 as they dive in mid as well.
Lovely play from Dunlosi. Sees Articuno on low health. Flash over the wall into the dash. Lands the punch. Does his best Conor McGregor impression and takes Articuno down. Lovely, lovely style. And that is a 4-1 Dunlosi. And it's fair to say that this fight's getting strong. But it looks, in fact, like London United not done doesn't quite land the death sentence there on the side of Heathen. So we'll walk away. That's going to be a turret down in mid lane. And that's going to open up the map now for Dunlosi to just go even more around and roaming.
And that's a really good capitalization. The advantage of someone like Vi compared to these farming junglers, as we talked about. Yes, she might fall behind if nothing happens, but she's got CC in her kit. They pick CC in every single lane. She's got a huge amount of setup. So there's not like one lane that she has to play for. She's not always going to be bot lane. and she can capitalize on stuff like Articuno taking a few too many tower shots, as we mentioned. He's then low, he's able to just dive instantly, as London are on the dragon, but it's 4v5, and they don't have a teleport coming out from Lissandra, but she is back in the fight.
It looks like we're going to have a fight here. One Drake apiece. There is nothing on the line outside. A little bit of extra damage available from this Infernal. Extra tricky. Trying to knock up. Does actually get hooked. They're going to try and put a lot of damage down, but good work from the side of London United to be patient and force them away. That damage on Extra Cheeky means they immediately have to back off as Dragon doing its best effort to try and share some damage across. They are still putting it out on the side of Mythos, but it will reset. It looks like we're a bit of a dance. This is what we spoke about, John. Like, who's going to engage first? Who's going to be the one to do it? There is a lot of bait coming in. Dunlois is actually using his dash into the pit. The nut lands onto Alistair, however, so they won't want to force the Lydia ult from that. Still, this absolute dance. Notice Articuno, though. A little bit of flank. The ward is there to spot them, though, so they do suspect that Articuno is hiding in that bush. Arcras still taking damage. Does try and get the damage from Man Robber onto Articuno. Walks away. Now Man Robber's a little bit stuck. Can't go with Wolves. This is actually a 4v4 separate. They are going to instead try and force the engage from London United. They're trying to get into backline. Ornhorn will do a little bit of damage, but it's too much protection. Dunlosi goes down. Mythos with a botched attempt to force the engage. There goes the second. All of a sudden, it's looking so good for United. Double knockup from their side. Down goes the Samira. That's the shutdown for the Orn. Victorio loving the pocket gold. Man Robber, the only one left. An absolute forced engage there from the side of Mythos when it did not work. And all in all, walks away, battered, bruised, Drake down, and all dead.
Really patiently played from the side of London United. They got a lot of poke down on Extra Cheeky at the beginning of that fight, and they were able to just position around, staying just out of range of the engage until the point where even if we do engage, even if we do get violated, they've not got the rest of their dive. We talked about this before, right? It's the power of having 5 people jumping on one person means you will be able to pick up that one person. But the disadvantage is that if your disengage is disjointed, if the Vialt comes in, but Cho'Gath's not there to put the extra damage, Samira's not there to dash in as well, then when Kai'Sa just lives at the beginning of that, with the Kraken Slayer coming out, a huge amount of burst damage, any fight like that is going to look good for London United. If someone doesn't die right at the beginning to all the dive, they absolutely will be able to take the W in the fight on the side of London. So Moonstone Renewer now as well coming out, it's just going to make that same thing more exacerbated. If someone doesn't get one shot, they're going to get healed straight back up pretty much. And poke coming out from the likes of the Seed, from those hooks, really crucial for the start of a fight.
Absolutely. Well, Mythos did not stop the speed of the game that they want. They did go away and pick up that Rift Herald immediately. This is such a close game. 1,000 gold as we're coming up to the 20-minute mark. 9 kills to 10. These are our two 1-0 teams fighting for that top spot. And boy, are they showing it so far. Just as you thought London United were struggling, they get themselves back into the fight with amazing patience. One thing I want to point out, John, and more for the viewers at home, there is a mid lane in this game. And that's all I want to say on it. Right, back to Agent Tao and Kum Kum, who have been mainly the focus of this game so far. 5-2 Kai'Sa, 5-2 Samira. Immortal, strong row picked up for the side of Samira, so doing a little bit more to stay alive in those fights. If you do get on her builds, we saw in the last fight, doesn't do too much. I do want to point out how well I think Victoria's playing, given the situation that he was in to start. Was very much behind in lane, down to a couple kills picked up on the Cho'Gath that really wasn't in his control, let's say, as he then doesn't follow that death sentence. And I've noticed some really good Ornhorns, some really good positioning, some good knockups to effectively try and split up the team. In that Mythos fight there, where they got all the kills, the fight to slow because of the Ornhorns. So really, really well played there so far.
Yeah, and those last picks coming out from the side of London United, the Lissandra and the Ornn, as we mentioned in Champs, like really, really smart to buy extra space, buy time, disrupt the dive coming out from the side of Mythos. And the later this game goes on, the more beneficial it will be for London United, assuming they're buying correctly, because there's so many items, stuff like the Banshees, stuff like the stopwatch, that are going to be absolutely crucial. So before a big fight, you know, when Baron's up in the next sort of five minutes, after Kai'Sa completes the second item, I'd really like to see Kum Kum pick up a stopwatch, even if he's not going to build it into stuff. And this is the power of an item like that. If the one time that everyone from Mythos dives on Kai'Sa, so you can just stopwatch it, you win that fight, you get Baron, you can win the whole game off a single fight in this meta, especially with the power of the items that are in Season 11. So, you know, when Lissandra gets the Zhonya's or the Banshees, when Lilia gets the Zhonya's, there's going to be less and less people for the dive to actually affect. And so for that reason, even though people like Samira do scale up well into the game, the later this game goes, it will be more beneficial for the side of London, assuming they are building to counter the dive in the same way that they're playing very effectively to counter the dive at the moment too.
And I do wonder for the side of London United if they're happy with that patience. We have seen Mythos really trying to push this game forward at speed and force elements of the game. Even when they all died, they immediately went and got Rift Herald. I want to see how the Baron looks. They have got a bit of vision up, although it looks like London United are moving in now to clear that. I do think Mythos trying to force an early Baron is something that they will try to do. Retain the vision, push them back in the lanes, turn towards the Baron, but if they don't pull that off right, it's going to be very difficult. And we do see both TPs available for the side of Viperio and Extra Cheeky on that bot side, so they can join a fight whenever they want. Look, here's what you see. Mythos get the vision in, reset, come back with new wards. Now they set up the vision again and try and force London United out. Control of this Baron is definitely the key to the next 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, Mauer picking up that Scuttle Crab is going to be very big for London as well. Just gives them a bit of extra safety as well as the speed coming on the turn. One of the things that Mythos do have in their advantage is that with the Cho'Gath, you can either start the Baron and then get a flank TP with Cho'Gath behind you. It's very, very difficult to get away to escape that dive. Or you can have the Cho'Gath in the pit, and because he's got that feast, it's very hard to secure it. It's no longer a 50-50. If Mauer gets in, Cho'Gath and Dunlosi should still be able to time everything together. But this is what we need to see happen from Mythos, although they're sort of skipping a few steps in their setup, but looking to force London to them so that they can get the dive.
Yes, this is another dance. We saw this 6 minutes ago. Death Sentence lands on Losi. They're going to try and blow up. CC will go into the backbone there. They have landed on the Kai'Sa. Galio to follow, but uses the ultimate to get away from that. Really good move away. And so far, the Kai'Sa is alive. On the other side of the fight, flash away from Don Losi. No longer in this fight. They are trying to put the damage on H-Town in the middle, who's dived into the front line. Spins to win, but it's not enough as immediately drops to Articuno. On the other side, you see Kum is alive. This is such a great mechanical fight from the side of London United. And yet again, where Mythos tried to force, they find themselves out of answers. Great work, London United. That is a 4-0 and another Drake in the back pocket.
Yeah, this is the downside, just like I mentioned, the downside of picking such a one-dimensional comp where you have to dive. You need to be very sure about how we're going to set up the dive, because unless the opponents are basically giving you opportunities, which London United are absolutely not, they're playing respectfully where they need to, unless they're giving you really easy opportunities to dive onto the backline, it becomes so much harder. You have to force them into situations where we can get a big flank, where we can get a Galio ult that actually does land on the Kai'Sa. If you're in a situation where there's just a front-to-back team fight, you've got Ornn and Lissandra in the front, and you're just pressing R on Kai'Sa, running past them, then the follow-up damage is not going to be there. Samira can't just run past Ornn Lissandra. Alistar can't just come forward and combo to make sure that she stays in the Galio ult. And so what ends up happening is Kai'Sa just ults away from Vi, 1v1s Vi, and then 1v1s the Galio as well, while on the other side of the fight, the front line from London United is just too strong. Again, with these items coming out from the Lilia, just buffing anyone up who doesn't get insta-killed, they just get healed straight back up with the state of Moonstaff at the moment. So very, very smart drafting, especially the last two picks coming out from the side of London United and playing their comp pretty much perfectly, despite some early mistakes in the first Dragon fight. They've been able to stabilize this game, and even that fight, it was a 1k gold lead for Mythos, but it doesn't feel like that when you're playing the game that London United want to play.
Yeah, quickly learning that the Vile into Galio slammed down, and not enough to keep Kum CC'd away when he can just kill her instincts backwards. Are going to need Arkrath to very much follow in with Vi. So you actually need all three forms of CC to take down get out. But all of this translates into London now back in the lead for the first time since about minute 4 in that double kill. 2.5k on their side. A couple kills to the name. They're now going to have control of the Baron area. And all of a sudden, Mythos' aggressiveness seems a little bit pushed back. They seem a little bit scared, a little bit unsure. That's 2 fights in a row now where they've pretty much been aced for nothing or equivalent. And as you say, Agent Tao was 5-1, now 5-3. Hasn't been able to get into his fights as he wants as they throw everything into backline. Viperio and Articuno putting up the walls, saying, nope, we have an Ornhorn. We have the ability to freeze you. We will stop you going where you want. And if we don't take Kum down, he's just going to clear up. And London United playing it exactly how they need to, given their poor start.
Yeah, Mythos now becomes a question of how are we going to get people onto the backline. Like, it's not enough to just Vile. We've seen that now twice, as you mentioned. Vile, then Galio is not enough. So how are we going to get Cho'Gath onto the backline? How are we going to get Alistar and Samira onto the backline? And the way you've got to do it now that you're behind is you've got to do it from flanks. What we need to see happen is if they want to play around this Baron, we need to see them push in top lane, push in mid lane, go and get vision, go and clear the enemy vision, then go back and push it again. And that's that crucial step that they've been missing, because London are able to check so shallow. They're able to take the fastest routes to Dragon. They're not scared to just walk through the shortest routes on that last fight, which means it's really hard to set up a flank because you've not got a huge amount of time. They did actually have Cho'Gath on the side, but because it wasn't set up with enough warning, they weren't able to coordinate everyone getting onto the Kai'Sa. We're still in a situation at the moment where Kai'Sa's gone just for these 3 aggressive items, so if he does get one shot at the beginning of a fight, it could potentially go in the way of Mythos, but as long as they play respectfully enough, unless they're forced into situations where the flank has to happen, I do believe that London are very much in the driving seat, and they will feel that way in the game. Like, if you were ahead and then you've tried 3 big team fights where you're trying to dive onto someone and they haven't died, it's starting to feel very, very desperate. So we'll see how they adapt. Forcing this Baron could actually be the best thing that they can do, but they do pull off it. So they need to work out a way of how are we going to get Alistar, how are we going to get Cho'Gath onto this Kai'Sa.
Absolutely. And as you say, if I had to put my prediction hat on, I do suspect this Baron being a bit of a focus for Silent Mythos. But in the meantime, Heathen and Kumkum have walked down here. They want to get Piglet X Cheeky. Nice little dodge there from the Rupture from Heathen. Flash away from the Ornhorn, but it doesn't matter. You need to flash more left. That's the knock-up into the Death Centers. Down goes Extra Cheeky. Perhaps if that had got away, Mythos could look towards Baron, but this Dragon is now up with 26 seconds to go. Respawn time X Cheeky. Going to have to TP in, but will take 10 extra seconds. Perhaps this is London United's chance just to burst it down. There's the TP. They do want this Drake. Infernal Soul on the line. Mythos are in fact moving towards the Baron, so it's a bit of a different. They go, you know what? We've got no chance on that Soul. Will London United recognize this fact? There is nobody pushing the mid lane, so they do have to know that Mythos are giving this up and not bothering. It looks like we're just going to see a trade, but you have to say, as important as Baron is, well, I say that they haven't yet started Baron, but I don't know why they wouldn't start it. They now seem to be going for a Fnatic Death Brush. I'm not sure about that. Perhaps they felt they couldn't kill it in time, and with Extra Cheeky not there, didn't have the ability to eat the Baron. They are going to see them walk in now. Now they don't know what to expect. This is Mythos' chance to pull it off. The Taur's going to come out. It's going to land onto 2. That's not the one they want. They land in the backline. They have tried to get onto Kumkum. Now it's flashed over the wall. Use one way to go with the killing instinct. Back over the wall the other. Arcrat down the backline trying to get the knockup. The shutdown has come down to Kai'Sa. That's the one they want. Samira is spinning to win. She's doing everything she needs to survive. They have to run away here, London United. The Infernal Soul meaning nothing. Victorio trying to walk away will go down as well. Brilliant work there from the side. Absolutely nowhere for Kumkum to go. That is a 4 for 1. 3 for 1, in fact, sorry, for the side of Mythos. I was very skeptical of that death. Perhaps that worked indeed. Expect Baron, and now with the feast available to the Cho'Gath together with Dunlosi being alive, that is almost a guaranteed Baron effectively for Mythos. And, well, they gave up Infernal Soul, but a couple kills to name in a Baron, it definitely puts them back in.
Yeah, brush like that, you know, it looks like a very, very risky play, but they've identified what we've talked about, is that they need to get extra people onto the Kai'Sa, otherwise it's just not going to work. And so when you're in a situation where you're behind in the game, then risky plays like that become much more beneficial. If you're 5k up and you sit in a bush for a minute, then you're inting, basically. But if you're 5k down and you sit in a bush for a minute to get a flank off like that, then it's really, really good. So I mean, I would have much preferred to see them just go for the Baron straight away, because that whole play only works because Kumkum's blue trinket happened to be down, Victorio's blue trinket happened to be down, because otherwise they just blew the Baron, see that you're not on it, and then they don't face check in such a rushed manner. But, you know, even though Manrobo's taunt wasn't able to quite get onto the Kai'Sa, they're still in a better position. Therefore, the Kai'Sa goes down, and the whole fight looks completely different, as this Lissandra isn't able to put out the consistent damage that matches someone like the Samira on the side of Mythos.
I say, these fights they're almost making me laugh when I'm trying to cast them, because I'm normally used to, right, John, a little bit of a space in an area where the fight's taking a... I've never seen 9 champions out of 10 piled into one bush fighting just to try and kill an ADC. So it's like, yeah, there's stuff going on. There's some knockups, there's some damage. It's hard to tell until you see who killed Kai'Sa. So again, well played from Mythos. I would put a little bit of skepticism out. They do have this Baron. It will probably lead to this tier 2 mid, as looks like London United to give it up. But it did take a cheesy death brush, a smart one. Don't get me wrong, a smart one, but somewhat a little bit cheesy to catch London United out. But you still have to say that on the face of it, if vision is set up correctly and movement set up correctly, and the opportunity to catch them out like that isn't available, you still have to put it on the side of London United to take these fights. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think while the Baron is on, Mythos have the advantage. They can push in the waves much quicker, which allows them to set up more death brushes. As Articuno, though, no, I thought he was going to go for the flank. Don't think they needed to be that aggressive, even though it might, might potentially work. They don't need to flip that because if the Baron is off, they will be once again in the advantage. Now, from the side of Mythos, this Baron is going to allow them to control the area if they want to for Elder. It's going to not be on when Elder is on, but it's going to be still active late enough that they're able to push in both bot lane and mid lane, and they should look to control this bot side jungle of the side of London United. Make sure it's littered with wards so that when they're coming in to check Elder, you do the same thing again. You work out a way to get multiple people onto Kai'Sa, and that's all it's going to be about.
Absolutely. London United, they just need to be patient here. This is sometimes where it gets a little bit hard for players. They feel they're in their heads. They feel like, oh man, we're getting pushed our base. We need to force something. No. Like, London United need to be patient, which seems to be what they're doing. They're matching mid 1-for-1. The Galio unable to push that strong with Baron alone. They've held off the Baron waves. They push it back, and they've given up 2 tier 2s. You know what? That's okay. That's okay. They do find themselves a couple of K down in the gold lead. This gold lead has swung, what, 4 or 5 times this game? Absolutely love to see it. But the Infernal Soul is sitting on side London United. They now have the Baron gone. They have the pressure off. We go back to sort of a resumed state, John, of setting up vision, waiting for the objectives to come back, seeing how these fights play out. That sort of crazy 6 or 7 minutes so is now over, and you have to start to look towards Elder in 1.5 minutes as the next big objective. What a game! What a game!
Yeah.
We are 2 1-0 teams. We are 32 minutes in. There is 2,000 gold in it. Every time we think one team's getting ahead, it flips back the other way. Mythos doing their secret little tricks. London United doing some great like, I love it. I can't tell which game this game's gonna go, but this is UKEL at its finest right here. I love it.
Yeah, it's very high standard as well. Not only an exciting game, but a smart one. It's not just exciting because one team's just choosing to fight when they shouldn't, but both teams have a very specific way that they want to play fights, and they've been able to capitalize on that multiple times. Very big that Kumkum now has the GA. I actually personally would potentially have liked him to sit on the stopwatch. That's such an important item in terms of these fights. Maybe even buy another one now if he has the gold. Would make him absolutely unkillable for the next fight and pretty much guarantees them the victory unless the Mythos can force it out. So this is this is why you see at this competitive level stopwatch being such a useful item, whereas in solo queue often it's just something you buy on the way to a different on the way to completing something like the GA, because it all comes down to this next fight. If Mythos can get another big fight like that, they can potentially just push in and end the game. But if London United, if Kai'Sa doesn't die, then they will be able to, again, get Elder and potentially end the game. So it all comes down to this next fight. So people who haven't used the stopwatch already, think about buying one. Like a stopwatch compared to a Doran's Ring or a Doran's Shield or something like that is just absolutely massive. And this is why you quite often see in late game team fights or in mid game team fights, the sort of 20-minute ones that are going to result in a Baron, 3 or 4 stopwatches in the likes of the LEC or the LPL.
Absolutely. London United sitting here, they have the stronger vision around that Drake. They managed to get the Rift Herald. This Elder looking very, very tasty. Look at the top side though. Extra Cheeky doing a great job of pushing Victoria in. Both sides have TP, but there's only so long that Victoria can hold this. Look at the work that they're doing. So this becomes a little bit of a dance around Elder of who wants to force what side, as look how much damage indeed that Cho'Gath does to the tower. Mythos a little bit forced out here, and you do have to think that this Elder and probably the Baron result, if there is a fight win, does represent to an extent the end of this game. So really, really important that both teams play it exactly to their style, really, as we've seen a game of chess thus far in how they have been playing the game, as my feed has died. There we go. Sorry, I'm back. So making up as we go along, but we're all good. It looks like actually London United picked up the Elder. I apologize for not being able to cast that. But on the other side, you are now seeing a force on the top side. Ornhorn was missing. I was trying to fight the Elder means Victoria wants to actually take down Extra Cheeky, and that's a shutdown for him. All of a sudden, the Elder means they can convert to Baron or to the base. They're forcing the fight in the backside. Down comes the Galio to try and save them. The GA has been popped for the side, but Agent Tao is down. There is no damage for the side of for the side of Mythos. All of a sudden, it was looking so good for Mythos. London United just get the Elder and basically finish out this game as they try and chase down Man Robbo to stop the mid lane being pushed. This is London United taking this game by the horns.
Yeah, and it's exactly what they needed to do. We talked about it. If they can get to an objective first, it doesn't matter if they're taking damage from Elder, because the difference of a flank or not is so big in the team fight that you take whatever damage the Elder does to you massively over multiple people got onto Kai'Sa. Don't think Victoria's going to die to that tower, or they just start building something within its range. So again, very clean game coming out from both sides, actually. A very high standard game. Oh, it looks like they're not going to look to try and end the game in
Really?
this 4v5
Okay.
with Elder. But instead, they're just going to go for the Baron. I mean, they definitely end the game if they try there. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, they keep outscaling. They're not in a massive worry. Yes, the GA is now down. Again, he could still buy the stopwatch. I'm going to keep selling those items. I do take a share. But they are going to use this Elder now to get Baron.
They are actually going to get a lot of damage. Dolos is actually taking out Articuno, going in a little bit dangerously. Blue team have taken the Baron Nashor. That's side of London United. So perhaps Articuno deciding, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice myself there for the greater good. As you say, John, I'm probably going to just force the game with Elder. Let's go safe. They are going to take the Baron. It is Lost and Articuno together with Elder. But you know what? 4 of them sitting with that. Perhaps the game isn't just over then yet. Look, Mythos are going to have to defend on this Baron side. And they have the Infernal Soul against them. But that Elder should run out as the resets come out here. And it's not over. And I thought it was over.
I mean...
but somehow it's not over. And I don't know why. And now we're seeing a Death Rush attempt. Okay, Mythos going to walk away from that. The game's slow, and I think London United perhaps don't realise the energy they have. I say the energy, but I want to say how ahead they are. And then I look at the gold and see it's only 1,037 minutes in. But they definitely have the ability to just close out this game and seem hesitant to do so.
Yeah, it's difficult to recognize often in situations like this. Firstly, again, they're not in a rush. It does just get easier and easier because it is harder and harder to kill the Kai'Sa. But on the flip side, you know, if you wait another 5-10 minutes, the death time is even longer. If Kai'Sa does die, you're really in a bad state. So I would like to see them just group somewhere and push. Like, these towers are not going to save Mythos. If you wanted to just have a front-to-back fight with Ornn tagging the tower, you're definitely going to win that. Any fight where Kai'Sa doesn't get insta-killed is good for the side of London United. And if you're the ones engaging, it's going to be very hard for anyone to get on Kai'Sa in the backline. So again, Mythos just waiting in bushes, trying to find a position where they can get multiple people onto the backline. But when Articuno does teleport in...
Speak of the backline, Don Lucy wants to try and get onto Kai'Sa. No GA, but it's not enough. Kumkum actually survives with the Killer Instinct, is on a killing spree. Look on the other side. Agent Tau, Death Sentence lands on Agent Tau. That's going to take him down. Blown up as Heathen sentences Agent Tau to death. And it looked okay at first. The TP came in from Articuno, but it was not enough to get Kumkum. Look, I can respect the engage attempt there. They knew GA down on Kumkum. They were pushing on the top side. They have Infernal Soul. A good last-ditch effort from the side of Mythos, and well played to them. The scoreline 22-14 perhaps not being too representative of the game thus far, but it looks like the game will go side. London United were going to sit at the top of this leaderboard as Man Robbo doing his best attempt to slow down the game. But London United will take the game, and they will sit at 2-0.
Yeah, very clean, very high standard game actually from both sides. Like I mentioned, you know, we didn't see leads generated off of poor plays from the enemy. We saw leads generated from good plays on the side of London or on the side of Mythos. So very enjoyable to watch. Both teams have a very specific style, and they really played hard for that specific style. So, you know, just great League of Legends, basically.
Absolutely. You know what? It was a great first game to cast. First time for us here at the UKEL. And what a game to get between two of the stronger teams in the league fighting for the top spot. 40-odd minutes, an Elder, 2 Barons, an Infernal Soul. So much back and forth. I think Gold leads swung 3 or 4 or 5 times. What a game. So I'm just impressed. I'm just impressed with the standard. Like, as you say, both teams trying to play towards their style. You've got the aggressive sort of one-pick potential of Mythos, and then you've got sort of the wanted to be peel, keep Kai'Sa alive, use that killer instinct well, and just slow the fight down from London United. In the end, it came through for them.
Yeah, much easier comp to execute from the side of London United, but we still saw Mythos making things happen in the way they needed to. Even when they were a few K down, even when they were looking like they'd been outscaled, they set up that death brush that we talked about, and they were able to get onto the Kai'Sa, and that was basically what they needed to do the whole way through. So yeah, I mean, nothing but good things from both these teams. I'm very excited to see them as the league continues.
Absolutely. Well, London United, congrats to you, sitting 2-0 at the top of the table right now. We will be going to a break shortly as we come to our second game of the day. That is Lucendi versus Viperio. Two teams are sat at 0-1, but both teams looking fairly good in their first game. Viperio, especially, to make sure it's interesting. In the meantime, we're going to take a break here, and we'll be back very shortly. Welcome back, everyone, to week 1, day 2 of this UKEL Spring Split 2021. Off the cracker of a game to start the day, so absolutely love that. But we need to move on, and today, now rather, we're talking a little bit more about Lucendi versus Viperio. Both these teams sitting at 0-1, tough start to the season. Viperio especially, they were in a 40-plus minute game against LDN United, I believe it was London United, in their first round. So really close against one of the better teams in the league to just fall short. Meanwhile, on Lucendi, 0-1 themselves, but we know what they can do. We've seen them in previous seasons, how well they perform. And they've got a really strong lineup this year of players, so perhaps that 0-1 not representing where they can be. And on the side, Lucendi, you do see Innocence, Shady, Limsey, Highlander, Dandy with their coach, Ibex. Sort of a master to Diamond 1 players currently. Very, very strong. They played a very damage-orientated style in the first game, which is kind of Lucendi through and through when I've seen them previously play. Is damage, damage, damage. Olaf, Camille, Senna, Oriana. So I love to see that, and I'm quite excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, and the Senna high priority pick last week, again, we're playing on 11.2, so it's not something we see in professional play, but Senna has been buffed up in this patch. So we'll see if that becomes, again, like the Taraka last game, see if that becomes a high priority contested pick, or if it just gets banned away, or we perhaps see it come through again from the side of Lucendi.
Absolutely. Next up, we have Viperio on the red side. That's in for Johnny Rico, Killerkin, Kaz Hasser, and their coach, Dan Holt. Another team who I've casted a couple times now. I've had the opportunity to see them. I'm a huge fan of Johnny Rico and his jungly style, but it's fair to say that they stand out for me as a team who can play quite a few different styles. I won't say if I say them well, but they like to try different styles of the game. Sometimes they could damage, sometimes they go pick, sometimes they go, I don't know, poke, etc. Whatever it is, they like to try new things. And again, in their first game, we saw Gangplank, we saw a Lucian, we saw a Seraphine Lilia. Not a single tank, not even a single bruiser, like all damage, all of it damage. And, especially that Gangplank later on. So I'm curious to see what version of Viperio comes out today. You could get the we're going to smash the game, this is going to be easy, or you can get the it's a little bit messy and we might have to edge it out.
Yeah, I mean, Tarek is the most tanky person from both comps, pretty much coming from the first games. I guess there's the Olaf as well from the side of Lucendi, but we'll see if it is another very high damage game. Seraphine taken out from Lucendi. I mean, I can talk about that. I'm obviously a big fan of the Seraphine. We picked it in our last game in the NLC, so very, very powerful pick, and I think completely understandable to just be bound away because it's so flexible. You know, we've seen it in mid, we've seen it in support. You can also play it in bot lane. It's something that comes up a lot and just has so much power, especially in the later stages of the game when you come into these team fights. It's almost like a Sona style, just buffing everyone up and providing a huge amount of engage as well.
I laugh because it's fair to say Lucendi have done their work. Last game, Viperio played Lilia, Lucian, and Seraphine, and they have banned Lilia, Lucia, and Seraphine. So fair play for the scout team. Meanwhile, the bans on the side of Viperio come out as Olaf, one that Lucendi played, but in general, very, very strong now. Followed by Gragas, who, if anyone watched the LEC yesterday, you'll see is very much a pro pick right now on the top side. They round it off.
Yeah, so I wonder if we'll see a first pick jungle coming out from the side of Lucendi. They do look to be going for the Kai'Sa, so very high priority AD carry. There's 3 of the sort of main junglers banned, but there still is Graves and Nidalee up, as well as people like the Pantheon to be a bit more of a ganking style, like we mentioned, rather than those farming junglers, which are sort of all considered S tier and competitive, but still enough to trade back and forward. So taking something like the Kai'Sa, where a lot of people see that as the highest priority AD carry, especially if your opponent isn't willing to play something like the Aphelios Thresh, which we see as the normal answer. And what looks to be Graves along with Desire as an answer to Kai'Sa. Not something I've seen too much, that Desire is the answer. Of course, Zaya Rakan does get onto the Kai'Sa very easily, which is something you always want to consider in a matchup like that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Zyra is not an ADC that I've seen prio, or any prio on this season. Perhaps it is a little bit of a Kaz special, but you picked up the Zyra, you've not followed up the Rakan. I assume it will have to be a Rakan third pick. If not, it's going to get banned. But yeah, Xayah into Kai'Sa, is there something we're missing here, or is it just that?
No, I mean, there's not many things that can really punish the Kai'Sa, which is why it's such a high priority pick and why it's something that can be picked up early, because you can pair it with so many different things. You could well be pairing it with something like the Galio, which has already been locked in from the side of Lucendi. If the Rakan does come out here now from the side of Viperio, that Galio in the bot lane, that Galio in the bot lane is something I expect to see. But it looks like it's going to be Thresh, so potentially can answer something like that. Obviously, the Flay does stop the dash coming out from Galio, which is really, really good for Xayah. An AD carry that's still, scaling into the later stages of the game when you've got 3 items is still just as deadly as ever, especially with the Gale Force coming out. Gale Force and the W empowered auto attack from Xayah, and you can basically take like half of someone's HP off in the later stages of the game. So a lot of threat later. We don't see it all that much, but I have seen it several times as a specific answer to Kai'Sa, especially in the later stages of the game.
Absolutely. Look, makes sense from that sense. And look, Gale Force is such a strong item. I love watching Gale Force because there's outplay potential available, even if it does a lot of damage. And Graves, notice picked up by Johnny Rico here. Something that I've seen him play before. Graves, with Olaf off the board and Lear off the board, very, very strong pick. Whereas jungle not yet taken side Lucendi, so that's why the Hecarim comes out there. Otherwise, a fairly standard setup so far. One thing I want to talk about is the Aatrox. So we are on 11.2. Aatrox did get nerfed. For anyone not aware, the healing of his ultimate effectively got moved into his dash when he's in his ultimate. So it's very much reliant on actually using his kit correctly to get the healing off, as opposed to just press R, do hits, and get health, which is, been a bit of a special of the season for a few champions. So I'm curious to see effectively how, Innocence plays this. It is a nerf champ at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's still going to be strong with the Gore Drinker. Synergizes so well with what Aatrox wants to do, get into that backline, cause a huge amount of threat, sustain up. I would assume that Innocence has practiced since the patch change, obviously, and is still comfortable with the level that the champion has. As we see the last few picks to round out the composition. I saw that look. Not entirely sure who the jungler's going to be here. AP Maokai in the jungle? Galio support? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Pantheon picked 4th as well on the side of Viperio. Very, very strong pick in the meta. Can be flexed in both solo lanes. Basically, Pantheon in whichever lane you want to put him in gets you priority, because Pantheon plus a jungler is always going to be good in the 2v2. Although I think probably, I'm not entirely familiar with the Aatrox matchup, but I would assume that that's one of the matchups that can do, decently well into the Pantheon. But basically, with the new items, and doesn't fall off past 20 minutes like he used to do. It's not just you have to win before 15, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. I still am waiting for where these swaps go, because I don't really want to talk about the Aatrox jungle unless it's actually going to be confirmed and locked in. It could well be the Camille pivot at the last second.
I think they've seen the Pantheon into Aatrox. They didn't like it, and they've pivoted to jungle, taking Camille out. Sort of a counter to Pantheon, because, of course, with Camille, you can use W to slow. You can use the E to try and get away post-stun, or get behind him, of course, if he's got his invulnerability bit out. Whereas with Aatrox, that click and stun just does so much to him, as it makes it so difficult for him to reposition. So I guess it's a move, but I won't lie, I've not seen an Aatrox jungle this season.
I've not seen an Aatrox jungle, I don't think. Just full stop. I mean, I hope this was something that was pre-prepared and not just to do with the top lane matchup. Be very interesting to see what happens. I expect, as we had in the last game, where you have one of these really powerful farming junglers like the Lilia was in the last game, but like the Graves is here. If Aatrox doesn't get things done early, he's just going to fall behind the Graves. A lot of these slightly strange off-meta junglers, even something like the Camille, do rely on getting early ganks, do rely on getting a lead through the fighting rather than specifically the jungling. So we'll see if Johnny Rico can just build up a farm lead, maybe deny some camps away. But I would assume he's probably also not massively practiced to playing into the Aatrox jungle. So I feel like this is very Graves favored, this matchup, but we'll wait and see. Maybe it's something that Shady has specifically prepared that he likes to pick into Graves. It was answered. If they were considering Aatrox jungle from the moment they picked it, they knew it was going to be up into the Graves. So I mean, I feel like Graves with Gale Force, it's pretty hard for Aatrox to ever get on him, but maybe I'm wrong. It'd be very exciting to see, and that'll be definitely where I'm looking for most of the game.
Yeah, Aatrox with a little Umbral dash, and you've got Graves with a dash. You've got Cashdin with a blink. You've got Xayah with an ult to get out and a lantern to reposition all of them. It's tough. What I will say is the comp as a whole. I can see how in my head Lucendi works, right? You want to get the Camille or even the Maokai W, into the backline. You've got Galio to follow. Even Kai'Sa can dive in with Unstoppable Onslaught, all of that. Killer Instinct, etc. So as a team fighting comp, I can see how that works. Now I'm going to look at Viperio, and this is Viperio for me. It's like, you know what? We need an early game. Pantheon top, tick. We need a mid game. We'll put Xayah Thresh bot, tick. Right, what about late game? Oh, we'll put a cast in mid, tick. Like they're just trying to tick every element of the game with different champs. And you look at that as a team fight or as how it comes together, and I'm a bit like, different timing spikes, different ways to engage. They could peel, they could go like it's just Viperio. Like this is what they do, and I love it.
They can do everything. You mean that means they're great at everything? No, I mean we talked about this in the last game, right? You've got two styles, especially when you're talking about this level. But in this season, you can either go full into the one thing, like everyone's going to dive, or you can get a bit more variety. You can have a bit more. You've got some split push threat, obviously with the global of the Pantheon and the late game scaling of the Castin. I mean, in a side lane and later on in the game, I expect Castin to basically run over the Galio. But what you've got on the other side is that this Galio Camille combination, if you're split pushing against a Camille, you have to constantly be aware of where the Galio is, because Camille ult into Galio ult means you can't even escape. And I expect Lucendi to punish on the side lane, especially in the later stages of the game, where Camille probably has an advantage against Pantheon just in the 1v1. So it's a lot going to be about how this early game shapes up, how the advantages can be generated, especially from Johnny Rico on this Graves, which again, maybe I'm biased, but I expect to see it just take over in this jungle matchup unless Aatrox can get a few ganks off early game.
One thing I will say is, obviously, the further the game goes, the stronger Camille gets and can very much dominate that side lane. The Castin does provide a fairly good option 1v1 later as a side lane to stop the Camille pushing. However, as you say, if there's anything to counter a Cassidin, it's Camille's Hextech Ultimatum. Press R, you've got the Galio to follow, the classic combo of Camille Galio. That is a great way to lock up a Cassidin that can move about. You can even follow it with a death sentence once he's stuck inside that hexagon. So good ways to shut down this Cassidin in the team fights. We're going to have to see how that goes as we are just getting into game now. And we will run through the teams very, very shortly. So, as we said, we have Lucendi versus Vipero. Forgot the name of for a second there. As we set up the game, apologies. Lucendi versus Vipero, both 0-1, both looking to get themselves set in this match, get a win on the board. They don't want to be sitting at 0-2 start the season when playoffs is already, just a few games away. And we are going to be talking about Lucendi. On their side, you have Innocence on the Camille. You have Shady on the Aatrox. On the Galio, you have Highlander on the Kai'Sa and Dandy on the Maokai.
And on the side of Viperio, we have Infor on the Pantheon, Johnny Rico on Graves, Killikin on Cassidin, and Kaz and Hase on Xayah Thresh in the bot lane.
Absolutely. So we're just starting now. As I said, we're going to see a lot of pressure come in from the side of Johnny Rico. He is the one who wants to dominate this game. As you said, he wants to ensure Killikin doesn't fall behind. He wants to help Infor, as the Pantheon top to really, really get strong and ahead. Perhaps a little bit differently to last game, John, where it was very much the chat of the bot lane. Perhaps for me, this is more of the chat of the mid lane to top. And whether it's a case of getting ahead or just surviving the lane, in that bot side, you've got Xayah, you've got Thresh. They can live, they can survive, and get away with it. Maokai is much more about poke damage with the saplings, funny enough, at support than it is the engage. So I think it's going to be a quiet bot lane, and I think we're going to have to see how Johnny Rico does against Shady on this top side.
Yeah, and if Innocence can get a lead on this Camille, then, as we mentioned, he is going to be able to take over the game via the side lane. Cassidin, if Camille is even a little bit ahead, Cassidin probably can't match, especially until that level 16 point. And even after, again, we've got the Hextech Ultimatum coming out to keep you locked in. So I expect to see Limsy pushing up this mid lane and looking to go to top to help the Camille out. I expect to see Shady spending a lot of time there. And then Dandy just using these saplings, as we talked about, to just keep the side of Viperion at bay, in the bot side. So, you know, that's what we expect, but we'll see what plan these teams have coming into the game.
Absolutely, and just a very, very standard start. You've seen Johnny Rico, he's doing a bit more of a clear, looks like. They have got a ward on the blue side for Lucendi, so they were expecting perhaps a little bit of an invade there from Johnny Rico, but in fact he's going to play a very standard start, and that's going to mean Shady getting the jungle wards. I have to admit, John, like, Aatrox, Shady on Aatrox, I have no clue how this does. Like, I have not seen an Aatrox jungle since I think his rework first came out. I have no clue how this is meant to behave. But when I think about ganks into a Kassadin, certainly level 6, but also even into In4 here on the Pantheon, I'm not quite sure how it's going to hold up. Is it more a case of just matching and surviving against Johnny Rico?
I mean, that would be the part where I'd be most worried. If I'm Shady, I think you have to look for ganks. You have to look to generate a lead in some other way, because we're already seeing Johnny Rico is up in camps and way up in health. Both, you know, Shady getting quite low, now level 3, going to start clearing after doing both those buffs, but has skipped one camp. Whereas Johnny Rico can take this red here, can probably, as I say that, In4 goes back. I was going to say can probably look to contest top scuttle, and then just go and clear his golems and just, again, generate a lead purely based on the matchup. If nothing happens between these two junglers, I expect to see Graves take a big advantage in CS, as he's actually pathing down towards this bot side to look to fight for this scuttle. But, I mean, Galio's gone back as well, so potentially will get away with this, but we'll see the first contest as there's fighting in bot side as well.
On the scuttle, Johnny Rico, he wants to fight Shady, who also wants to fight it back. Actually goes to Smite and smites the crab early. 5 HP crab. Shady shows the sad beer, gets out. This is not a level 6 casting. Cannot dash forward. Trying to get damage down. Shady in a little bit of trouble here. Will flash away. Now Gallows is safe, so will get out. The cost of a flash for that scuttle and a cheeky little emote on the way out. One thing to note as well, while that was happening, Highlander had to blow his flash on that bot side. A bit of a summoner win. Actually, 2 flashes in the end for Viperio, both for different reasons. But at least Shady gets a little bit of XP from that crab.
Yeah, I do like the contest coming out from Johnny Rico, because if he was able to pick up both scuttles, like he is doing here, like pick up the top scuttle, if he did manage to get that bot scuttle, he would just accelerate his lead even more. I expect him to go pick up golems, reset, and then sequence his tier 2 camp, so just keep generating that gold, keep generating that lead. But with Shady able to pick up that scuttle, he will, you know, get some way back into the, well, not back into the game, but to be able to keep up with the Graves as he picks up his tier 2 Raptors and then the tier 1 golems, and probably looking to gank on the bot side. Otherwise, again, Graves is probably just going to outscale, although, I mean, so far, Aatrox is able to keep up, so perhaps it will be something that just keeps going throughout the game.
Absolutely. Ward will spot out Johnny on that top side, so that will stop them for now. And in fact, Inno was looking to go in there and engage. Meanwhile, we're going to cut to the Drake, though. That has been started by Shady, as there's a little bit of trading on the top side there, as you saw with the Galio. So they do see Johnny Rico top. They do try and bounce to Drake. Highlander's going to move in here to help with Dandy. So there was a back that came in there from Kaz and Hassa. Despite the fact they had the pressure, using to try and transfer down the tempo. So 2 summoner wins or flashes turns into a Drake lost for the side of Viperio. And that's Lucendi sorted.
Yeah, there's been some very odd back timers already in this game. In4 getting huge priority in top side, but taking the back rather than using that to translate into scuttle. And again, Limsy getting priority in mid, but not helping Shady on that bot scuttle either. So in a team game, one of the biggest things is when we like to see them perhaps consider that a little bit more as a hook. Comes out
Actually seeing a lot of trading on that side. Meanwhile, looking at top between Inno and In4. But it doesn't matter immediately. So summoner trade from Danny Highlander, a bit of a summoner trade there. Between both teams, no kills coming out. Johnny Rico hasn't quite, and will actually get spotted out on that little ward down bottom. a quiet, slow start, and actually given there's a casting way that they want to go.
Yeah, I mean, both teams do have scaling options coming into the mid game, and especially into that late. They Kassadin, everyone knows exactly how scary a cast, and Zaya does scale up very well into the later stages of what these teams decide to do as the first objective that they're really focusing on so far. When they saw Johnny Rico in topside, but some denial coming out from the side of Viperio here as they look to contest the Raptors.
Yeah, and Shady will at least move. Death Sentence does land, but doesn't take down the big chicken. So Shady will at least pick that up. So good pressure from the side of Viperio. They want to try and get some deeper wards in. They want to try and push them back as we at least see Innocence on the top side here, pushing in 4 in. Something I didn't expect. We are seeing a CS lead, outbeat the wave, just hitting and a bit of a push. So that Pantheon, traditionally one of the strongest earlier champions, perhaps not working out just as wanted. As we are seeing both junglers move down towards the bot side here. Notice that Shady has spot out on the ward, does sweep, so he knows the ward's there. So they do it here, and Johnny Rico ready to counter. Is backing. Is he going to try and take this fight? Shady? No, the back does actually go through, so he won't take that fight. There was a little bit of a move from Limsey. Post level 6 now, so of course could fly in with that Galio ultimate, save the team. And yeah, Viperio, the Spidey senses are going. They know something's up. They knew Shady's about. They do force him away. And again, just a little bit quiet.
Yeah, Shady somehow with a level lead onto the Graves as well. So Johnny Rico not able to fight that level 5 versus the level 6 of Shady coming in. So even without the Galio looking, which he was, as you mentioned, wasn't going to go well for the side of Viperion. And we're just seeing the farming, but not the leads generating in the places where we kind of thought or expected them to. You know, you pick the Pantheon for that early pressure in a lane. You pick him to try and generate a lead, but I think, you know, the swap coming out, the flex pick on the Aatrox, has actually been a bit of a surprise for the side of Viperion, as it looks like Innocence on this Camille. You know, if he's even early with the Pantheon, that's definitely good signs coming into the later stages of the game.
Well, Viperio see a little bit of a tempo movement here, so they're going to try and force the Rift Herald. Killerkin moving up towards that top side. And helping out. Now that's followed by Limsey as blue buff is at least taken by Shady. Smite force, so that means the give of the Rift Herald. Do notice Inno just hiding behind that wall up there as in down. This does give the pressure down the side. They are try. Okay, they don't engage on the Inno. They do try just a little bit of a hook shot over the wall. There is pressure force on the bot side from Highlander and Dandy. They do push a wave in, so that's a bit of a free back for them as Kaz and Hassa move up the wave. A little bit quiet, a little bit slow, as we expected, perhaps. Just the nature of two teams are seeing 0-1, a little bit hesitant, not getting to the game as they would like. But Rift Herald at least picked up 4 Johnny Rico on the side of Viperio. And as the game gets longer, as we said, that casting starts to scale, the Zaya starts to get going. And I'm guessing that the Aatrox on the side of Lucendi falls off. But again, I'm not quite sure how that works.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I was expecting Graves to be substantially up. So he's already proving me wrong. I'm not sure if that's he's proving me wrong or Johnny Rico is. But either way, Aatrox farming very well in the jungle. A nice shift play coming out from the side of Viperion. They're moving their bot lane with the pressure they had in bot, moving their bot lane to mid, which allowed Killerkin to roam up, even though Limsey obviously has that global. They weren't able to contest that Herald without giving up a big wave in the bot side. So Dragon, it looks like, going to be started again from the side of Lucendi, looking to stack up towards that Soul. We'll see what type of rift we get. And, you know, Maokai's just so obnoxious. If you get to an objective first, everyone has to face check into saplings, but it looks like they don't actually want to fight, so just given straight back over.
Absolutely, and there you see it. Red team has slain the dragon. As the best league impression for what is a 0-0 game at 11 minutes. 200 gold lead, so next to nothing on the side of Vipero, as even as you would like so far. Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to give credit to, I want to give credit to Shady, right? Like, we spoke a bit about the Aatrox, it was a bit of a shift to get the Camille into the system, but I think one thing he's done well is this pathing. He's done a great job of expecting where Johnny Rico would be, trying to match the camps that he can take before Johnny Rico's turn up. I've noticed Johnny a couple times look for an invade, and there's no camps up, there's nothing for him to take. And whilst, yes, he got a little bit unlucky on that first scuttle, just Shady's actually had the answers on him. you know, with what you expect to be a tougher champion in the jungle.
Yeah, and for some reason, like, I'm not entirely sure why they actually gave up that dragon there. I feel like they're, especially with the Galio, in a perfect position to fight, but perhaps they are just thinking that same way. You know, Shady's not falling behind at all. We're happy to scale up into that mid game. We're happy to get the Aatrox a Gore Drinker. Basically, any Gore Drinker champion, when they have that completed item, is as you know, they're ready to go. They're as strong as they'll ever be compared to other champions, which are going to scale up with, you know, the more crit you see coming out from the side of Johnny Rico. Maybe the Collector or something second item really enhances that first item. But Gore Drinker just by itself, and then Shady's ready to go. So perhaps they're just waiting for that moment before they start to be a bit more aggressive and generate some leads. As another good roam.
Looks like they were thinking about a dive here, but yet again, Shady has the game. But the Hex ultimate is going to come down into the Galio. They're actually going to turn the first blood. That is Shady picking that one to the Pantheon. All of a sudden, pull the trigger on the side of Lucendi as a flash is forced away from Johnny Rico. Expect Killerkin to blink over the wall. Actually, no, a flash forward from Malphite into another flash. That's a beautiful pickup and kill. They knew they could force it. Flash route into the follow Torn. Beautifully done from Lucendi. And what all of a sudden looked like Vipero trying to force a play or wanting to start it is a brilliant turnaround side Lucendi. And yes, they go up a few plates on bot side, but this is all about Lucendi pulling the trigger.
Yeah, really good play from Dandy to get the roam off and get onto the top side, and to able to punish and, you know, basically turn around that overextension, turn around that play that Viperion were looking to make. And that's the power of the Camille Galio. You can just force Galio getting into the fight. You know, in the last game, we saw Galio ults come down but hitting no one because everyone was able to get away. But Camille just guarantees that they're going to get something done as the Rift Herald does come down. So an answer with a full tower isn't actually too bad from the side of Viperio. They will equalize or perhaps even take the lead slightly in the gold. So not in a terrible state themselves either. And this game definitely could still go either way.
Absolutely. Look, 2 kills side of Viperio, very nice, but you have to respect the fact that the pressure and the tempo coming out from the side of Viperio as they try and push the game. That Rift Herald being used bot side, they get the first turret. It's a lot of gold in the back pocket of Kazer, which doesn't always show. So it's a CS lead and the plates. It does translate into a gold lead for the side of Viperio, you know, just short of 1,000. So they give up 2 kills, which keeps Lucendi going, but Viperio playing to their objectives and the way they need to, I guess, despite the fact that we haven't seen Johnny Rico perhaps pop off as we expected against the Aatrox, and Lucendi have done a great job of cancelling that. They are still very much in control of this game, and it feels like they are dictating the game.
Yeah, I mean, just still, the slightly odd picks means it's very hard for me to judge, you know, how, you know, the relative power of both of these comps. It still feels like, at this point in the game, the fact that the Gore Drinker is coming through, the Triforce has come through. Yes, it's matched by the Eclipse and the Immortal Shield Bow, but I just think Aatrox at this point, if he can get into fights, the fact that he hasn't fallen at all behind the Graves, he's actually a little bit up in CS still, will be a very good situation for Lucendi if they can start to force stuff, because you do have this ticking time bomb of the Kassadin. When he reaches that level 16 mark, it's going to be very, very hard for Highlander to ever stay safe in a team fight.
One thing do notice, they've immediately moved Killerkin to the sideline now. They want to get him pushing half control. I'm curious to see whether Innocence goes against him to try and stop that, or whether they match it still with the Galio. A lot of movement coming in, a lot of pings coming down onto that mid lane. It becomes a game of pushing that mid wave and using it to gain pressure elsewhere. That Drake is coming up very, very soon. So the Mountain being spawned in just about 30 seconds gives them an objective to focus towards. Now, thinking ahead, there's probably going to be a team fight here, as we already see people move in. Oh, actually, Death Sentence's land won't be followed, so a little bit of damage coming. John, you've got about 10 seconds to tell me who's going to win a fight this early. I say that. No engage. So I was looking, I literally said it as Pantheon's looking to engage Innocence. But now engage coming around from Shady. They're going to try and get forward. They want to kill Infall. Flash away is not enough. Down goes the Pantheon. Does stay along for a little bit longer. In the backline, however, the Hextech ultimatum stops the casting anyway. And all of a sudden, this has gone so wrong for the side of Viperio. Johnny Rico now in trouble. Look at the slam down from Shady. Engage pulls the trigger yet again by Lucendi. They get the first 2 kills. They follow it up with the lockdown on the side of Killerkin. And it's a beautiful 5-for-1, which at 60 minutes in the game, that translates into, well, a much stronger position and lead. Would you predict it then? I was going to ask you who you're going to predict to win that fight. Because I was going to say Lucendi.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to because, again, we talked about the Gore Drinker coming through as just such a strong item spike. It's such a really powerful moment for the Aatrox, and we saw it in a fight like that. So, again, Galio much stronger than Kassadin at this stage of the game, and Shady with that Galio ult coming down, and then with the Gore Drinker was just able to basically run over the whole team of Viperion. So, you know, Kai'Sa wants to fight now, pretty much, or is ready to fight now. Yes, she does scale later on into the game, but Xayah definitely wants those 2 or 3 items before she's really fully online. Kassadin very much the same. He wants those levels, he wants those items. But Galio and Aatrox just so powerful at this stage, and they're able to take over that whole team fight.
Absolutely. And look, you know, even with 5 kills to the name there, take 7 and gold is dead even. Yet again, the pressure Vipero showing. I spoke about this in draft, John. You know, the nature of the team fight for Lucendi, very clear, very obvious how they want to play the fights. Viperio's, it doesn't fit into a style. It doesn't seem to sync or come together. So the natural, let's say, macro talent of the team showing in terms of pressure and getting that goal going. But the way the game has moved now and controlling these objectives, you need to fight and you need to fight well. And I don't see how Vipero can do that in these fights, as they at least try and pick up mid lane. They are actually forced away. I don't see how they can win these fights.
I mean, they just need to be scaling up a bit. You know, Graves will become stronger than the Aatrox if they keep getting more similar items, if the goal lead in between the two doesn't increase. We see the first sort of objective that could look to take down a tower coming out from Shady, because if you look at the health of the towers, it's not like we almost traded multiple towers. It's no, Viperion just took that bot lane tower basically for the cost of, you know, some kills in top lane. And are now just taking mid lane for pretty much free. So I want to see what Lucendi can do with this Herald coming out, because they need to start taking these structures down. They need to generate some more of this gold lead and you know, play the rest of the map, not just play for kills or kills and dragons. So Kassadin will get to the point where he's too strong. Xayah will get to the point where it's very, very difficult to deal with her. And if we get to the later stages of the game, the mobility of a team fight coming out from Viperion will allow them to skirt around and make it almost like a skirmish. Make that Galio less useful, make the Aatrox less useful when you can just kite him around. So they will be looking to play on their mobility in the later stages. And it's all about whether Lucendi can keep pushing this you know, sort of advantage they have, because the gold is so close. If they can look to take some towers, take the standing gold on the map, build out an actual substantial lead.
Hey?
Oh, that was definitely a misclick there.
That's a misclick. We love to see it. Sorry, carry on, John.
Well, I was just saying about how the importance of the Rift Herald and using the Rift Herald to definitely break this first tower. But it looks like, I mean, they might be able to collapse on it. They might be able to take a tower still with it. But it seems like a bit of a whoopsie.
I think he's thinking he's on a wall to use Sweeper, because he followed the Rift Herald with an immediate vision wall down next to him. So, yeah, a little bit of a whoopsie. Actually, okay, they get the charge off the rail. You know, all's not lost in that use. But just as I was about to...
Could technically be worse, I guess.
For the Rift Herald taken. Turn around. But look, let's focus a little bit on where some of the kills are at, some of that goal sitting. A 3-0 Aatrox on Shady, a 2-0 Kai'Sa Highlander, a 1-0 Inno Camille. These kills have landed in really, really good spots on the team. And, you know, we were a bit unsure of this Aatrox. Well, 3 kills, 3 assists, and he's up on CS. Pretty impressive. But we are actually going to see a 1v1 attempted top side. Inno wants to take this on. There's the lock up into the Galio. The standard combo you need. Talk comes out. In 4 goes, I can do nothing, as I am locked in. And down he goes. And that is the tried and tested Camille Galio combo. And that will probably lead into a top side tower. And yeah, just well played, Lucendi.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so difficult to deal with. You know, if you're not willing to find a collapse on the other side of the map, or not positioned, I should say, to find something to get on the cross map, you can just commit 2 people from the side of Lucendi. Almost impossible for Im4 to ever get away from that, and they can just rinse repeat as soon as the ultimate's on cooldown. Obviously now they don't have those crucial ultimates for the team fight, so this could be a position where Viperion can look to get something done, but I don't think they're ready. Their champions are not online yet. We've got 2 items from Kai'Sa, yes, but she's really probably looking for that 3rd item before she can overtake. And Shady is still so strong as the fight comes in.
TPs have come in. They're immediately trying to get on Johnny Rico. He's trying to flash away. Killer Instinct goes forward. Kai'Sa Highlander takes down Johnny Rico. Now he's got a double. Actually, both kills going to Shady. Flash away from Killikin. All of a sudden, the fight cannot work. They TP'd in to want to start this fight, but all of a sudden, it goes so wrong. Flash away from Infall to follow. Beautiful turn onto Johnny Rico and Hassa from the side of Lucendi. A great work from Highlander and Shady. Slams the sword down, picks it up. This will be the third. Drake, the second mountain on their team. They are on the mountain. So there is no way for the fights to be won from the side of Vipero at this point in the game. Plain and simple. That's what I'm saying.
Shady's just too strong at this point. I mean, there's a 2,000 gold lead for the team, and Shady himself has about a 2,000 gold lead compared to this Grave. So very much not going the way that perhaps predicted coming into this. Shady proving that the Aatrox can work. And again, just very clear game plan. And we've seen that from both games that we've cast today. People have a very specific thing that they want to do. We want to farm Aatrox up to this Gore Drinker, and then we want to fight. So they had positioning on one of this earlier dragon, this Cloud Dragon, and they gave it up because they're like, okay, we don't have Gore Drinker yet. Then the second they do, they're looking to fight everything. They're looking to force everything. And unfortunately, from the side of Viperion, they're just giving them the fights that they are actually looking for. They are coming forward and engaging, or coming forward into positions where Limsey can get a really nice flank on the Galio. Shady can get into the backline, and it's just so impossible to deal with him before his second item has even come through. When he comes back and gets this Sterax, it's just going to be almost impossible to kill the Aatrox in a fight.
Yeah, and look at, as you say, mentioned Limsey getting into fights. 10 kills their team, 10 assists for Limsey, 100% KDA participation. Really, really stuff from him. The game, I suspect, is going to slow down a bit on the side of Viperio. They know they can't force fights. You do have the Soul, the Mountain Soul, coming up in 3.5 minutes, so that will be the main focus. And you're seeing pings come down from the side of Lucendi onto Baron. They want to get that vision out and push out. As said, I can't quite see how Viperio start to take these fights unless they just wait for that casted scale, but you always have the Camille Galio to lock casting down. One of the most unique champion counters to cast it in the game. How else can you lock one down? So good work from them. So far, Lucendi to get this lead. It's translated to about 2,000 gold, and they're just waiting for the next objective. They're just waiting for that next fight. They are playing these fights exactly how they need to. And John, I think we owe a little bit of an apology to Shady. We spoke about how we'd never seen an Aatrox jungle. He's 5-0-3. So what do we know? What do we know? We know that if you don't shut down an Aatrox early and you give him a nice fight setup, he's going to get a lot of kills. So really, really well played to Shady there. Sorry, Lucendi. I am a changed man. I will be playing Aatrox jungle later, probably to John's dismay. And yeah, and as we see, just the pressure coming out from Lucendi. Bot tower picked up for them.
Yeah, and they're able to pick up some of this standing gold, able to capitalize on that Rift Herald play to pick up the bot lane tower. Yeah, just very clear game plan once again. And now it's on Viperion to find something to do, something to force, some way to counteract this soul that's going to be coming up very, very shortly. I think by the time the dragon comes up, they're not going to be ready to fight. So they need to either be looking to get something on the other side of the map, but they've only got 2 minutes for Dragon to come back up. That will be the Mountain Soul, one of the best souls for a team like Lucendi when they want to just be jumping in, they want to be diving in. That extra shield going to be very, very useful. But, I mean, Zaya is still strong, does have a fairly decent gold lead on the Kai'Sa, 1.5k or so. So as soon as that third item comes in, perhaps they're going to say, you know, we have to fight for this dragon. And if she can get that third item in the next minute and a half, they will look for that. But I mean, to be honest, it's difficult to see how they deal with Shady, even with this Zaya in the backline.
Absolutely, the Zaya strong has been a little bit quiet, just kind of doing his thing. Picked up a kill a little bit earlier on, has got 2 items to the name, whereas perhaps the rest of the team are struggling for that second item power spike. With Drake 1 minute 20 away for that Mountain Soul, you are going to see Killerkin and arguably Johnny Rico falling short of that 2 item power spike, especially huge on the casting. Not having 2 items for that dragon means that he just won't be able to fight it. Meanwhile, you have 2 items on the Camille, 2 items on the Aatrox, and a bit more. You know, everyone's starting to hit their very much mid-game power spikes earlier on the side of Lucendi. This dragon is gone. This is a Mountain Soul, and if you were scared of an Aatrox throwing a Mountain Soul for added effect and 5 kills, well, one starts to argue becomes a little bit raid god mode.
Very much so, with just the cooldown of Gore Drinker as well. He's going to be able to get that off multiple times in a fight. Going to have that massive shield coming out from the Sterax. The combo of these 2 items we've seen on so many people, like Olaf and Pantheon and anyone really, be so effective. So it looks like Lucendi are going to pick up this third outer tower, picking up all that standing gold. And even though they were even, you know, now they've got a 4k gold lead or 3k. They're very much ready to go. They're going to be looking to fight for this soul, and I think it has to be traded, and they have to try something aggressive like this Baron.
Absolutely, and you saw that they did see Lucendi move to the bot side,
Oh.
take away there. But actually, the engage has already come in. They've got so much damage onto Haas. Out comes the Hex Tech Rocket Bell. Not enough to take him down. Slam Dunk comes down, and now, all of a sudden, Inno's trying to avoid, but a lovely dash on Johnny Rico to avoid that. That is a shutdown. Pure mechanics. Now Lindsay's in trouble. Killikin picks up the second, but Shady's here. He wants to take this fight. They've got the lockdown onto the tire. Flash forward for Shady, was transferring the reset on Haas, but it's not enough. Shutdown onto the Kaiser. Hook sentence onto him. Keeps him away a bit longer as Haas doing his best. They are trying to 4v1 Shady, but he's too strong. It's almost enough. Look at that heal coming out for Goredrinker. Shutdown for the side of Info. That is a 5-for-1. 5-for-1 for the side of Vipero. Where did that come from? Some beautiful little mechanical dodges onto some of those stuns. And all of a sudden, Mountain Soul is prevented. They are going to at least leave the Baron just in case. And just so well played individually for Vipero in that fight. And Lucendi have to start to be scared now, because that team with the Cassadin and you're not winning the fights, oh, it's getting tough.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we talked about. They needed this high mobility comp. Limsey goes in with what looks like a rocket belt taunt, but the thing is that he is the follow-up engage. And so when Camille jumps in, Galio can then jump in after her. But if Galio, is the one going in first, there was absolutely no follow-up and they were not ready. So that just wasn't a 5v5. Galio was able to be picked up first, and then the constant kite back coming out from Viperio, and they're able to use the massive mobility of the champions. The shield bow already coming out, the shield bow coming out from Graves, providing so much healing. The mobility coming out from the Cassadin, he's able to pick up a triple kill. He's now level 15. He's almost at that silly point. He's got the Conqueror as well. In a fight like that, the longer it goes, the more they can just pump out a huge amount of damage. We talked about this coming into the draft. There's just no tanks once again on the side of Viperio, and they're just pumping out damage basically. So unless the engage is good and clean, and everyone from the side of Lucendi gets in there, and they stack up the CC rather than just using one big taunt, it's gonna look very good from the side of Viperio now, especially as they scaled up. And now is the turn for Lucendi to feel like they need to force something like the Baron.
Yeah, it is a ward in the pit, but it's being blocked out by that control ward. It cannot be seen. Shady goes over the wall to hit the blast plant, stops weighing in, but Johnny Rico has a way to dash in. TP's coming out from both sides. Perhaps they're just trying to force that, but in fact, Inno has committed to this Baron with TP of her own, so no gain here so far for the side of Lucendi. And now, all of a sudden, Vipero feeling strong, feeling powerful. They want to go in. Hash trying to land. Death Sentence does land it onto Shady. Perhaps doesn't follow as the Maokai roots prevent the team. And that means that Baron Nash has picked up. That went down faster than even we anticipated from Maokai. But Gilligan's in the back line. He's taken down Maokai. Now you're going to see on the other side the lockdown into the Gallo. Expert Spec. Down goes one. Down goes two. Shady slam dunking. Hasn't quite taken out enough. In before Johnny Rico dies as Infor takes him down, dies himself. Everything he wants to do. Killikin trying to get the flank on the other side, but the lockdown into Galio, it's just too strong. Death time is at 40 seconds. Baron on the side of Lucendi. Perhaps this is already game here as we speak, and they can try to end. It's all on Killikin.
And that's exactly the team fight that Lucendi wanted. Maokai doing so much work there. Every bush they walked in, everyone gets slowed. They take big chunks of damage. And then the Maokai route again, allowing them to pick up the Baron. And this is what we talked about. They then layered the CC. It wasn't just one person going in forward, and they are going to be able to end the game here. I expect as Killikin doesn't quite go down, but the Nexus is going to
They're getting the damage out. The game does go down. So it is, in fact, a good win for the side of Lucendi. Bar one little misfight. Really, really well played and really strong from them. That takes them to 1-1 for the season. Commiserations to Vipero, dropping to 0-2. Not the start they wanted, given how well they played against London United last time round. And hey, you know what, John? I was just gonna make some comments about the gold swing's back. Now Castin's online. Now all of a sudden Lucendi in trouble. They turn around, they pull the trigger on Baron. Really nice CC from the Maokai with the ultimate to stop them getting in, and they just go, it's okay. Calm down. We messed up one fight. We'll take the next one. And bam, pull the trigger with Baron. Dead. Game over. That simple.
Yeah, and we've seen it in both games. When you get two teams that are fairly evenly matched and even in gold, it's all about how the fight looks. And when the fight was much more scrappy, much more focused on the mobility, it was very good for the side of Viperio. But as soon as you had multiple CC being layered, as soon as you had a big grouped up ball with the CC coming out from Galio, with the power of Shady on this Aatrox, it's just going to go massively in the favor of Lucendi. So able to capitalize on that, not dissuade by the fact that they just lost the fight, not dissuade by the fact that, oh, Kassadin's scaling up, he's about to hit level 16. They just force on the Baron and they turn. And I mean, the Maokai saplings there, this is nerfed Maokai. And it's so obnoxious to try and face check into something like that.
Absolutely. Look, Shady 7-1 on the Aatrox, Highland 5-1 on the Kaiser. Really, really good work from them. And as you said, when there was a structure and a plan going to the fights, they knew how they wanted to play it and just absolutely crushed it. So well played to them. As said, Viperio, a little bit of work needed there, and they will drop to 0-2. In the meantime, however, don't leave us anywhere. We have got plenty more games coming up for the rest of the afternoon. Some big matches ahead. But in the meantime, it is me and John done for today. We will see you next time on the cast. And yeah, hey, John, it was fun to be back in casting, and it's great to cast UKEL again.
Yeah, very good standard of the games. The second one was incredibly exciting. We saw weird picks, and the first one was just a very good, clean game of League of Legends. So perfect way to start for us.
Well, hey, if this is what we have going forward, I'm excited for the future. Big games ahead. Stick with us. We're going to go to a short break, and next up, the rest of the games for the afternoon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the UKEL Spring Split for 2021. I'm Viper and joined by Nightmare. We're done with all these new casters now. Let's get some of the old guard back in. And we've got two amazing matchups for you today in the second half of this stream. We've got Nerd Rage coming up against Hive Central in what is going to be an absolutely huge match, Alex.
For sure, because so I got to cast Nerd Rage's first match, but they won over Lucendi. Of course, we just saw them in the last couple of games as well. Hive, though, I haven't seen them on the Rift myself. I mean, I did watch out and chat and all that other stuff. I mean, I watched the game, but well, a lot of people thought they were pretty hyped coming into it. They're 0-1 though.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult and it's variance, right? You're saying, look, Hive are 0-1 and Nerd Rage are 1-0, so you just look at that and you think, well, Nerd Rage are favorites. But Hive came up against Demise Academy, who we will be seeing a little bit later as well, who a lot of people are touting as this really strong team. And Hive dominated the vast majority of the first game. It was very back and forth. It was very much both teams doing well and both teams making mistakes in and out. And I think the Hive put themselves in a very strong position going into it, but some questionable decisions on a micro level during that last fight around Elder Dragon really, really cost Hive, and it eventually cost them the game. So now that they've got that Demise Academy out of the way, it's how they bounce back and respond, because a lot of people are saying Nerd Rage is a weaker team than Demise Academy is, even in this early stage. So Hive need to win this game to get their season going, and if Nerd Rage can win this and go 2-0 in the first week, they're going to silence a lot of doubters.
And something that we've hit on a lot in prep in the first broadcast too is that it is a 14-game regular split. If you're gonna go and contend in finals, get the playoffs, or even no one's gonna remember the first week. No one's gonna care, right? You take the lessons you learn. That's the important thing. You take what you can learn from these, and Hive had a late game experience. Sometimes that's what it is. You just get to late game and stuff happens. Nerd Rage, on the other hand, looked more confident. They really came out to a lot more decisive victories in the early and mid game. So I guess there's more for me to take from that game in terms of how things are going to progress if they do get an earlier game lead and stuff against Hive. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to chalk up some of these losses to it got to late game.
And this is the thing, right? Hive, you'd think, would be a very, very strong team in the late game, but that is where they lost last time around. I want to look at a couple of these matchups, though, because there's a lot of interest across the entire map in this matchup, but the mid lane is where I want to keep my eyes on. Disco Dano versus Zyke. Zyke was the player that maybe impressed me the most coming out of Hive Central. We're actually going to look at the roster from Hive Central first. So we've got I Won't Lose, Wilhelm, Disco, Dano, Vaingod, and Zerg. It's not Danko, but I mean, I know some of his players have been pretty dank so far this season, so I like that as a change.
Heck yeah.
But Disco Dano, a lot of people have been talking about the mid lane for Hive, saying, look, he's a champion. He's won this league before for a reason. And Zyke was a very, very impressive player yesterday on that Nerd Rage lineup. So who wins this matchup in the mid lane and who wins the 2v2 with the jungler as well could be a massive consideration on who wins this match.
Especially when you look at, the OPGGs for Disco and you think, oh, Yone, Aurelia, those are fun champions. You go up to Zyke and you think, that's a pretty scary amount of Zed. Maybe someone should, have an intervention at that point. It's like there are a couple of Memphis on the Nerd Rage team where they're like, you okay playing that champion so much? Either way, it's one of these things where you have these very high variance champions in mid lane, and we've talked about that in a couple of different scenarios too. But particularly in mid lane when it's such a short lane, and you can reset quite a lot, and your junglers are often farming raptors or around wolves, and they can come in to intervene, particularly with scuttle fights too. The matchup in mid lane can get out of control very, very quickly, particularly when you don't have so many Orianas, don't have so many control mages, and you do have a couple more of those fighters involved.
I'm just fascinated to see how this matchup goes and how these players perform, because as you said, there are some very, very interesting champion pickups, and with the UKEL, we've seen some interesting stuff even in these first couple of games today. The Aatrox jungle last game absolutely ran over the opposition, so we'll see if something crazy comes out like that. We know that Hive versus Demise Academy had some pretty interesting compositions and picks. Doctor was basically losing his mind for the first couple of games yesterday.
It was
crazy.
There's an Ignite Kai'Sa top lane. Why has Twitch started Doran's ring? What's happening with Sona Lux? We really did go into the whole Alice in Wonderland kind of scenario. You don't really know what's going on with the whole brain chemistry at that point. But yeah, no, I mean, there is something to be said about trying to have that shock factor too. But maybe not quite to that extent. I'm not sure I can handle it.
I think today's shock value has been good. We've had the Aatrox jungle, we had Lysandra mid, which I was very surprised about as well. So, a couple of fun picks in role, but none of this like Seraphine, Sona, Lux nonsense. Get that out of there. No Kai'Sa tops for me, please. But we are now into picks and bans.
Oh,
Hive
lovely.
Central over on the blue side. We've got Nerd Rage on the red side, and Zed, as you were saying, instantly taken off the table.
There's no point giving someone a one trick. I mean, we saw that with Articuno and the Anivia the other day. Sometimes you just think, look, this might not be the best pick in this slot if it were any other player, but because this is one person who's so practiced on it, they'll get more value out of it than anything else. Get rid of the Zed. Easy.
Ivern and Vayne also. We're seeing some of these one tricks taken off the table. Seraphine, maybe the first one that's just a more general ban, absolutely killing it in the support and mid role, and marksman as well, if you're feeling so inclined. But
For sure.
there's a lot of powerful, just standard picks being left available because these one tricks have to be taken off the table.
For sure. And I mean, I have a lot of opinions on support role, particularly because when you have something like a Leona or an Alistair, you can ward a lot more safely, and we talked about that, myself and Initialized, during Vipero's game on Thursday, and we said, actually, because they've fallen behind, that champion does suffer a bit. Whereas someone like a Thresh, you're more tanky. You go Aftershock, you have a Lantern to bring someone to your rescue, and you've got more ways to escape those kind of situations. So maybe that's more the kind of support which Hive Central want to get rid of, because that's the ones which are being played in the meta right now.
Yeah, Flating going to be loose Giz Fresh. Nerd Rage going to be running down their third ban. This is due to them losing their third ban for the next few games. But Olaf, first pickup for Wilhelm in the jungle. Very, very strong pickup.
I'm surprised you ban away the Ivan if you're going to play the Olaf, although, again, Magikarp really good at that pick, alongside the Fiddlesticks too. Two very unique champions the way that they can jungle path. Of course, they can just go for your full clear and do a bit more standard, but they have that ability to blow up in the early game with some just weird pathing. And yes, I also think that Flajian taking away the Thresh from them very important. Effectively, Flajian won all 3 lanes for his team in the last game that they played. Roamed around, got into mid lane, got into top lane, and I believe that Amumu is a proxy pick. Didn't quite hear what that was though.
It was a Kai'Sa being
Makes
locked
sense.
in.
Makes
First.
a lot
I was
of
excited. I saw the Amumu and I was like, this will be great, but will be the Kai'Sa coming forward. A very, very strong pick down in that bot side. Don't believe it, Demise Academy. She's not a top laner. Lilia also going to be picked up, and that's a very interesting dynamic in the jungle already.
So Lilia, at least against the Olaf, has the ability to go phase rush, which we're seeing more than the Dark Harvest nowadays. Get the slows from stuff like the E, get your load of speeds up from your Q, and you can kind of at least distance yourself from the Olaf, and you can just play at arm's length. You don't have to get in there. Just keep sitting back throughout the E's and make sure you can have that threat of the ult, and that can, in some ways, disengage for the rest of your team. Not disengage, though. Trist Leona, I'd say that's a bit more of a kill lane, Will.
They want to be bundling in, but I'm very fascinated to see what Flajian has in the locker. A lot of people have been talking about Rel as the champion you want to be picking into Leona. I know Tempora was discussing that one at length on his stream. Bard being hovered as well is a fun option, but there it is. The Bard is going to be locked in alongside that Kai'Sa. What do we make of these bot lanes as we move into the second rounds of bans?
So if you are playing the Rel...
Oh, it's a Nautilus, I've been told, not a Bard.
Okay, right, sure, right. So if you're playing with something like a Samira, Rel is definitely the pick I'd go for because it's such heavy all-in. And also, Samira kind of has this uncapped DPS potential where you're sat there thinking, yeah, if you get in there and you have enough HP, you're always going to keep doing that damage. You unlock that ult and things go crazy. Whereas with something more like the Kai'Sa, you do have that more target accessibility with your ult, the Killer Instinct allowing you to go all across the place. And the reason that Kai'Sa Nautilus is also a kill lane is that you get 2 hard CC right away from level 1. You get your hook, you get your passive, which roots someone in place. That's 2 stacks of Kai'Sa's Plasma. And of course, that means that you get close to that execute threshold. And when you have Hail of Blades, it means that you get through your damage combo really, really quickly, even in the early game as Kai'Sa. But Trist, Leona, level 2, that will turn the tables, I would think.
Definitely a very strong engager. I expect to see lots of action down in this bot side with both of these lanes, maybe looking to be a little bit more aggressive and not really having these sit back and just play the game marksman on supports, which there are some in favor right now. But just looking at the bans very, very quickly, Akali, Jace, and Victor all being taken off the table. Not the most usual bans in the second round.
So it's technically the Akali and the Jace, both flex picks if you wanted to move things around, but when you're going for when you're picking the last two picks as your solo lanes on blue side, you don't really get the same flex potential. Akali was nerfed on this patch. Her Q energy towards rank 5 has gone from 80 up to 100. You only have 200 energy maximum, so it actually nullifies a lot of your combos going into the mid and late games. It's a bit harder to pilot, but in a competitive setting, Akali has unparalleled assassination potential onto the backline. Still not something which a lot of people really wants to be tangling with. If that was a Samira, I would have been very, very surprised. Would have had to have that Kai'Sa top conversation again, and I would leave.
Ooh.
We have the Syndra instead.
I mean, a much more standard pick. I'm a very strong mid laner, and Syndra Lilia as a mid jungle duo. What do you make of that?
It's not something you want to be ganking for. It's pretty good in terms of catching people out, and the thing which I think both of these champions do really well is they punish people who overdive. If you walk in and Syndra's not your target, say you go onto, I don't know, Nautilus instead, and Syndra gets a QR combo, leaves a load of balls on the ground, and just fires the Scatter of the Week through the entire team. That's huge amounts of stuns. That means that your Kai'Sa gets a lot of plasma onto a lot of people, gets to have the pick of the litter where they're diving. Lilia gets to do the same thing with the sleep too. Just keep playing the longer game. If you dive too deep into the Syndra and the Lilia, you gotta make sure you're ending the fight before they get that CC out.
Shen and Yasuo will be rounding out the composition for Hive Central, and I really, really like this Shen pickup with the Olaf as well. Can run in and always basically get delivered into the middle of the enemy team. The Yasuo into Syndra, that's quite an interesting dynamic. We're just going to wait for the final pick to be put in from Nerd Rage. Yasuo is Echo. So you know what? I'm just going to double down on the statement I make pretty much every time. Buy all the champions, people. Just, the proxies are terrible. Just own all the champions.
For sure. Okay,
in
so
the game.
if I have it right, we have Kled versus Shen confirmed in the top side, right?
Kled is Camille. Come on, people. Come on. Right. So,
all right.
We're going to jump back into Champ Select very, very shortly, where we'll get a confirmation of all the pickups. Shen versus Camille. That's a confirmed matchup. Let's talk about it.
So, Shen versus Camille is it's a matchup where Shen is happy to hold lane, but has options to play aggressively too, particularly when you have the Olaf. If Camille is going for the more aggressive trades and then, you know, goes into that Spirit's Refuge, the Shen W, Shen can definitely win. Has a lot of extra damage tacked onto his kit ever since the buffs at the end of last season. And if you end up using your hook shot to go forward because you're trying to take one of these opportunistic trades, because Camille is good at anti-tank and Shen is a tank, and then you run into a waiting Olaf, you probably just die. So there are definitely things to go on there. More interesting for me is this Shen can hold tower and then just use the Leona as a vector to get into the fight. So I've done a lot of casting over. Well, I'm a really big fan of following the Japanese region over in the LJL. There's a team there which practiced really, really hard Shen Leona, and that was a combo they brought out in the playoffs. And I was thinking, oh, you know, this is a bit out of meta, and it absolutely wrecks face, because if you go in with this Nautilus, you land a hook, and Leona's got the Shen on top of them. You don't leave that fight. You end up dying. The CC comes in from the Leona, the extra taunt comes in, and there is way more than enough time for Triss to jump in, get a reset, and start snowballing the fight from there. Really love the Shen Leona combo. It's one I've seen a bit.
It's going to be exciting to watch that one in this game as well. We are now back into picks and bans. Everybody will see the real team compositions going through. We're just going to wait for NR third ban to run down. But there's a lot to like about both these comps. You've got the exciting matchups in the top side. You've got two aggressive bot lanes that probably want to be fighting. You've got Lilia versus Olaf in the jungle. Both of these champions very capable of getting up in the faces of the opposing jungler and scrapping out in lanes as well.
There will be no Raptors anywhere.
No,
inside.
no one's going to get Raptors. They're just going to be stolen by everyone. The mid laners are going to be sitting there sadly looking for that extra gold. They're not going to find it anywhere. But where is now we've seen the compositions, where is the most exciting thing for you? What matchup do you really want to be watching?
I wish I could say it's anyone given, because obviously Echo versus Syndra, really fun matchup too. And you can even go something like Hail of Blades Echo, and at level 1 start E, dash over the Q and get 3 auto attacks, get the move speed and you pass them, just get the hack out of dodge. But that's we saw that briefly in season 10. I'm not sure it'll be the thing now. Either way, Shen has so many options that actually there's a match that's like, wow, 2v2, that's really low range AD carries. These are really hard to gauge sports. That sounds, oh, there's a Shen. Okay, maybe it's not a 2v2 anymore. Wow, Echo's really good at diving into, oh, Shen's on the Echo too. So actually it's never really about the individual matchups. For me, it's about controlling these globals. I do think that No Rage now almost certainly have to go and target the source of that global, but we said Shen's happy to hold tower too. It's going to have to be Magikarp determining the pace of the game in the early game and making sure that Hive Central don't settle into a mid game with all of their teleports available, all of their globals to play around the first objective fights, because I think that Hive could snowball off of those first dragon fights and heralds.
And they've got as you say, they've got the opportunity for this global play that maybe Nerd Rage doesn't. But if we're talking about these early dragons and these early objectives down in the bot side, who do you expect to have the priority in the bot lane to allow for an easier taking of the first couple of dragons and control of that area?
It could become obvious from the level 1, because if you get Triss Leona's zoned off the wave from level 1, and one Zenith, but then one Zenith Blade or one Hook can land to turn that around, it's very hard to predict, but we'll know within about 2 minutes, I would reckon we'll.
It will be one of those, we get in, you see like one auto attack on a minion go astray. You're like, easy.
Yeah.
This team's winning.
I actually wonder if we'll have a level 1, because we don't see quite as much Nautilus as we did last season. We still see a lot, right? But when you've got Olaf in the game, Leona in the game, Nautilus in the game, there's a chance you get some weird level 1s coming out because the amount of CC you have available. So you just keep that in the back of your head. I doubt it because it's kind of evenly matched on both sides, but I hope one of these teams is feeling a bit bold.
Bit bold. Or both of the teams feeling a bit bold. Then we can see them just smash into each other, which is always fun.
That. The best ones for that when you got like a 5-man charge Scion queue and suddenly the game ends. It just ends at about a minute in. That's it.
I'm always fascinated when you've got two invading teams going into each other, where obviously champions like Olaf, champions like Nautilus, who want to be taking their engageability anyway. But then you've got champions like Shen, who is like, we're invading. Do I go for the E start? Do I ruin my lane in order to try and get a pick? What's going on here, Camille? Do I go for the hook shot?
Yes, I know this well as an Ari main. I'm like, but wave control. But the CC is really good. Yes, that kind of thought process. Oh, remind me what main role you play well.
Of this season, I kind of swap around a lot. When I was in the university scene, I played like a lot of different roles just to fill out rosters.
I know that feel too. Yeah,
it's a classic. This season, I am playing a lot of Malzahar mid. Because I'm not good at the game, but I can click on enemy champions.
Heck yeah.
So you're kind of good. And I like playing a mid laner who's just like very beefy. So yeah, that's fun.
Very true. Okay, so I guess in this case, the closest analogy in this game would be the Syndra, that same kind of no mobility but has some playmaking in that mid lane. So if you're playing the Syndra or you're playing your Malzahar, it's this mid jungle duo of everything. What you see this Shen, how would you want to play this game? Are you just gonna be like, I'm just not gonna push the wave ever? Or would you just say, actually, I just need to make sure that I always know where these people are at the same time?
I think you want to have the vision, but if you're playing this kind of mid lane who's a little bit less mobile, want to be kind of floating around, just having a good time farming and trying to get pressure off a little bit, because you want to have the pressure so that you're not getting shoved in constantly. Because if Echo's shoving you in, it gives Olaf very free reign to get into your jungle and ruin your Lilia's life. It's just about communicating and saying, look, Lilia, if I'm starting to get ganked, I'm going to try and create a bit of pressure, but you need to be around, and making sure that you're not just pushing all the time, but making sure that you're going to be like, okay, I've got Nautilus coming up, so now I can get a little bit of pressure in, or Lily is at the Raptors behind me, I can get a bit of pressure. Because if you're forcing at all hours of the day, Olaf and then Shen at 6 are going to make your life miserable, and not including the Leona as well, who may look for a roam.
And then suddenly enter stage bot lane. You've got Nautilus and Leona, who are very proficient at roaming too. Obviously Flagian did such a good job of roaming on the Thresh in their first game. It was versus a Senna Taric. That doesn't punish your AD carry sitting alone, though. If you sit there as Kaiser, you get caught by any CC, you die. You die because Triss jumps forward, and suddenly you've lost a kill in the bot lane for a chance of something happening in mid lane. So for me, this is going to have to be really clear communication as to where Nautilus is going to be on the map at any one time from the side of Nerd Rage, to really see if they can, like you were saying, stop the Echo playing so freely in the mid lane, because once you do have that free push in from that Echo, you get very hard to pin down. What you really want to do is just make sure that the Q uncontested on the wave, punish him with a lot of hard trades, and threaten him with a Nautilus hook coming out of one of those bushes from the Fog of War.
And I think this is the toss-up as well, because you've got the reverse of that, right? So if Leona decides to go for a roam herself, try and catch out the Syndra who might be overextending, then Tristalda, yes, has that jump, so is a little bit safer, but Nautilus has all of the stuns, which means that the Tristalda is then going to be very, very endangered as well, which can be a little bit worrying. So the supports are going to have a big decision to make in this one, where they want to be going, how they want to be playing the map, or if they want to just be standing in that 2v2, which is, again, you lose a little bit of opportunity, but it's all about that potential versus that definite gain.
For sure, because I mean, on the side of Nerd Rage, of course, when it gets post 6 for the solo lane, it's not a 2v2 anymore. There's the Shen. There's gonna have to be a lot of very quick and clean communication from the Camille. I can cancel TP. I can stop the Shen, or you can't do that. Right? You need to know immediately, because when it comes down to the 2v2, it can literally be, because they're such low range AD carries and supports, because in the early game at least, before Triss starts getting more range, it can be one step too far forward. Hook lands, Zenith Blade lands when they're in the wrong position in the lane. That information becomes very relevant. It needs to be clean communication. And again, the first week of something like UKEL, when you have a lot of new rosters, when you're figuring out your friend's microwave in their house and you don't know what the buttons do, that you need to really nail down what's happening with your comms.
And this is where Hive have the advantage over Nerd Rage, because Hive, these players have played together for a very, very long time. I Won't Lose is the only one that, or maybe Zerg was the only one that wasn't in that team that won on NSG. And they've been playing together a lot over the years. So they'll have their communication down. They are kind of on the same wavelength. Nerd Rage, exactly. And Nerd Rage, on the other hand, they're a newer team to put together, right? You have only 2 players coming in from the promotion game that they played into the UKLC. So they've had to bring in 3 players on relatively short notice, and the bedding in period is still ongoing for them. So when you've got one team which has the better communication with the Shen, as you said, and with these champions that like to roam around, when you've got the Olaf who wants to be going into the enemy jungle, you need to be talking to Echo about when you can do that. You need to be communicating Leona and Tristana in the bot side. When's Leona going to leave? When's she going to go in for the engage in bot lane? Nerd Rage might not have the same level of communication, and that could be the difference maker, all things considered.
Absolutely can be. And like I said, in that 2v2, and when Leona's leaving, when Nautilus is leaving, it can be decided by who has the wave push at level 1. Who's managed to get to the wave first? Have they leashed? Have they stood in the brush? If someone, and then also using that information, you're thinking, oh, so they're going to try and come to the wave. What if someone stood in lane brush, lands the hook, gets a really good early trade, forces Triss to start W instead of E or something like that? This bot lane can literally, like I said, be decided in the first couple of minutes.
So we'll have to keep our eyes bot to see if they can do that. But we're on to the Rift for our 3rd game of the day, second to last of the week here in the UKEL. It's so nice that we're double round robin 2 days a week. 8 games of UKEL a week. Absolutely love it. Hive on the blue side. We've got Nerd Rage on the red side. Nerd Rage looking to go 2-0 and tie up the top of the table in this one. Hive looking for their first win of the week and the season. Before anything mad happens, as we have lines of scrimmage, no fun invades, boo. No, Mira, which team, now you're looking at the compositions, do you favor in this matchup?
Oh, that's really hard to tell. I think I'm going to go with Hive. Like I said, I love Shen Leona as a combo. It gives you so much playmaking ability post level 6, and you still have a lot of strong champions in your roles. We've been seeing a lot more Triss popping up in regions like the LPL. If you get ahead on this carry, then Kai'Sa does get out traded if you walk into the wrong areas of the map. However, I think that if Kai'Sa and Nautilus do manage to switch over and like go into the mid lane, Kai'Sa's a really good champion at wave clearing mid. There are ways to mitigate that kill pressure as soon as you leave that bot lane and you get a bit more control across the map. But right now, I've just tip it for me.
Interesting. I think I might have to agree with you now. I like both the rosters in their own ways.
No dissent here.
No, so normally I'll just say the exact opposite of my color caster, because then if they get it right, I'm like, wow, you're a good analyst. Woo. And if they get it wrong, I'm like, haha, you're an idiot. But you know, I have to agree with the case of that you put forward for Hive, but I will say it's not a big difference for me. I think Nerd Rage have put themselves quite a nice roster. There's no glaring issues with it. And in the bot side, you can see Fagon and Zerg looking for something aggressive, but couldn't find it. And this is where we start watching and saying, right, who's got the domination here?
Exactly. Looks like just about even shove in that bottom lane. You can see both supports saving the relic stacks for the second wave, so you can kill those first 2 melee minions. Rush towards that level 2. Leona, Triss, huge level 2. Not like Kai'Sa and Nautilus have a bad one either, though. So already, the tension is starting to rise.
Just a little bit, though. Nothing too crazy. We're seeing in the mid side, Syndra and Echo. How do you expect this one to go? Is Echo going to be, as you said, looking to shove in? Or do you think Syndra's just going to be too much to handle in that regard.
After a certain point in the game, almost certainly, because you want to be shoving, because you can Q the wave twice, clear out those back minions, and with a couple of autos on your passive, you just kind of clear through the front ones too. And then you want to start branching out from there, get that river vision, which means that Lilia gets pinned back a bit, or at least it's on vision when they roam. Also works with those supports too, as we were saying, because if there's wards in the pixel rushes, then they have a lot less to play with. Well played by Echo. Dodges over the Q, goes in, doesn't quite get the passive, unfortunately, but you can see how this Echo wants to play this early lane.
Yeah, it needs to be, when you're a melee into range, you need to be a little bit aggressive with these trades if you want to not get shoved off. Zyke, already very low on mana, does have to be careful, but has Corrupting Pot running to get a little bit back as well. But in the top side as well, we got Shen and Camille having a good old time, but a little bit of movement already on the bot side from Hive Central. Just looking to move up river, didn't find anything except for a very nice deep ward.
Yeah, nothing too much to talk about just there. And I mean, we were talking about, oh, this Shen Leona combo. That's really cool. I mean, there is every chance that Camille pops off in that top lane matchup and starts killing the Shen. Again, that combo is a bit harder to tell, and then Shen is much less of a threat in the side lane, because there will be kind of this tipping point where Shen can push in a Camille and Camille can push in a Shen. It depends how that will work out in terms of where you want to move the Camille across the map in terms of Nerd Rage, and then start getting vision once you get that push as a result of that. So that'll be another interesting matchup, of course.
You can see the shove already dominated by Tristana Leona for Hive Central. Vengod and Zerg feeling very, very happy to just be taking it under tower, but Nautilus doing a very, very good job of keeping those minions out of tower range, making it very, very easy for Hive to pick up that farm. And you're going to tell that by very little difference in the early stages of this game. No one's really losing out on farm, which is always nice to see.
And so I guess you think, oh, the junglers aren't doing anything. They've actually managed to keep information on each other pretty well. You can see that also on the top side, sweeps through one of those wards, but Lilia is there to respond. On
Camille looking
go right into the Olaf.
Hey, Jamastic and Magikarp getting a lot of damage down onto Wilhelm. I won't lose there as well, trying to play Bouncer, trying to save the Olaf, but it will probably burn down here as well, so he gets the first blood going over to Magikarp, who's now chasing on to Shen, who's turning it around with Disco down, and Magikarp needs to be careful, jumping, dancing away, prancing out of the fight, but I'm losing a lot of trouble here with Magic, doing a decent amount of damage on the Camille, flashes over to the chase, and gets another kill. Magikarp as a Disco down, doesn't end well for the Forge.
Oh, no way!
She's going to have to skip away, one last order was needed, but now Camille behind tower, maybe looking for something extra, not going to be able to find it, and that's 2 early kills for Nerd Rage.
Oh, so, okay, so it's actually not the Phase Rush Leah said, oh, wow, we're going to see more Phase Rush on that Leah. It's the Dark Harvest. Stacks up the Q anyway, doesn't need the Phase Rush to distance themselves away from the auto-attack range of the Shen, of the Olaf. The Dream Dust passive does work. The red buff available too. It's an overextension by this Olaf. Punished, and the Lilia gets away with a large amount of kill participation.
Now Wilhelm on the bot side has got the pressure in the bot side to go for this early dragon. We talked about this in Champ Select, and it will be Nerd Rage able to secure that one. Lilia coming down, but probably will be a little bit too slow with the smite coming in from Olaf as well. You got to imagine that one's available. There we go. Mounted Dragon already picked up. Inferno will be the next one on the table. So gonna have some interesting souls to look forward to this game if either team can get to that point.
And also just a single Mount Dragon is pretty good for Hive's team, right? I mean, Shen's going to be able to resist, Olaf will get a couple in there, Leona obviously very tanky. The single Dragon is worth pretty large amount to them. And sometimes we're in this kind of meta now where the individual dragons, because it was stuff like, for instance, the infernal stacking of previous seasons when you did get multiple dragons of the same type coming in, that... we've kind of lost the individual value of just one dragon, but the Mountain Dragon seems to be the one where in the right team comps, it means the most.
And you say it will be very, very nice for Shen to have that into Camille. It's going to be nice for people like the Leon to have that as well. So giving themselves a little bit of a bonus, a little bit of a boost after that play in the top side that didn't really go their way. And now I won't lose looking to fight in to Camille once again. Magic needs to be careful. Magikarp is there. It's 2v1 against the Shen. Level 6 available, but Shen doesn't need to use that on himself, and the damage is huge. Camille jumps forward and picks up the third kill of the game for Nerd Rage.
Shen goes forward, Lilia is there, but actually now Lilia is the one caught out.
There's a lot of people rotating up here from blue side. Hive Central looking for their first kill. Have found it from the Echo. Little bit of a pause coming through as well. Echo killing the Lilia so hard, she disconnects.
Oh, jeez. Right, have to see what the problem was on that side of things. But yeah, it goes from... It goes from 100 to 0 to 100 real quick. Lilia manages to get into that top lane just as Shen goes aggressive. Well played by Camille to, I guess, bait in that play, knowing that Shen was going to go aggressive, and then Lilia capitalizes. But looks like we are actually just going to get right back into game. Really important that Echo gets the shutdown now, because what this means is that if we're going to move into more of a 1-3-1 comp, which I suggest we'll probably be seeing from the side of Hive, if Echo gets the right side lane matchup into that Syndra and you have a lead, Syndra is not safe in that side lane.
Not at all. She's got very little ability to get out of dodge. If she's got Flash, she's usually fine with one get out of jail free card, but Flash has a quite long cooldown ability. And when you've got someone like the Echo who can match her very, very
Tell
easily.
That to Zoe. Will, tell that to Zoe.
I don't know. We don't. She's not here. I can pretend for a game that she doesn't exist. Like, it's very, very good to have that that ability available, but once that's gone, Syndra's like having just a really rough time in the side lane.
So the new tech is Gale Force Syndra. Yeah, you get a minute on your flash cooldown.
I don't know about that one.
Lovely,
surely Proto Belt. Surely Proto Belt, right?
No. Well, we'll see about that. Okay, all right. Enough
The silence does it all.
This is the problem when we cast together. There is just too much clown. It is clown-to-clown communication, Will. And to everyone else hearing the circus theme in the background, we welcome you to the greatest show on earth.
Get some peanuts out. Just chop down on those ones. I'll have to mute my mic a lot, but you know, it's fine. All things considered, this game actually going pretty well. Coming over to Nerd Rage, they've got ourselves a small gold lead, still looking nice in all the lane states. Nowhere are things falling apart for them, and they should be pretty happy with that at this stage of the game.
It should be, but just because Echo takes that huge trade in mid and starts to get the push, Camille, even though they're pushing the top side, Lilia and Syndra are hemmed back by this Echo, who is now ahead. Shen taking a heavy trade on the top side, just as Olaf is getting through that Herald. I actually wonder if Shen's doing that just to try and get some of that HP away from the Camille to maybe threaten a dive.
Oh, that's a very nice hook from Flajian, who's putting the damage down. We talked about this in Champ Select. If you leave Vayngod alone for too long, he might be in trouble, and that's another kill for Nerd Rage, first one in the bot side.
I actually saw none of that, so that's exactly what we were saying. That we did talk about. Oh wow, what if Leona's roaming? What if Nautilus is roaming? These AD carries are short range. Triss particularly doesn't have wave control because of that explosive shot passive. Nautilus lands the hook, gets the kill, and while things on the top side with the Herald go to the side of Hive, suddenly this Triss not nearly so safe.
Not at all, and if you're gonna get caught like that, it was a very, very nice hook, it must be said. So more props to Flajian than oops from Vayngod. But if Leona is going to go up to secure those objectives, Vayngod needs to be positioning much, much safer than that. Or you do just lose out on a kill, which gives the opportunity for Hire to draw ahead a little bit and farm.
It's 6 to 1, half a dozen to the other, right? Because you can say, oh yeah, okay, Vayngod shouldn't have to walk up to the wave. That's the wrong decision. But if you're falling really far behind in this matchup, and that's because the wave position was bad when Leona already left, and then, of course, Triss on her own can't really manage that wave, that's already bad for the Leona roaming, who was actually in River and dodged the hook.
I think it's one of those things where, are you happy paying for the Rift Herald for Vayngod's life?
Yeah.
Yes, asterisk, depending on what you can get with the Rift Herald, right? If you can get a good number of plates down, especially onto someone like the Tristana or the Echo, you're going to feel very, very happy to have just lost that one kill that allowed for a nice reset from a higher. Didn't even get any plates on the side of Nerd Rage, but a bit of a fight kicking off in the river. That's a really nice Zenith play. Magic Cup goes golden, but it's surrounded by a sea of blue. Needs to be exceptionally careful, but will be able to dance away. Zerg taking a little bit of damage. The ultimate actually coming down. Here comes Flajian and Higher looking for the damage on to Leona, who's going to be able to dance away. Look at the Nautilus, though, trying to keep people locked up. You can't lock up a Ragnarok. Olaf Wilhelm picking up the first kill of the fight. Nice on the toe, onto two. Will land on the squish members of Nerd Rage, but Magic in the backline looking towards Vayngod. Will be able to pick up the kill from Camille. Jump back from Disco. Dano looking for Magic Up this time around. There's fights on both sides of the wall. It's going to be Zerg going down next, but I don't think there's going to be any more to be written as both of these teams look to back away. Magic actually trying to prove me wrong. Looking towards I might lose, but the full health Shen is not a tasty opportunity, and both teams will be forced to back away.
And this chapter of the game is one of action, suspense, and a bit of horror. That Lilia engage was nervous. That was onto a single person, and it was also not really capitalized on particularly well, because the Kai'Sa jumps in, and what you really want is to watch out, eat the Lilia W to pop that sleep. That doesn't happen. The CC doesn't last that long, and that means that Hive have a chance to swing back at Nerd Rage. It goes pretty even, all things said and done. But if one more person dies, Triss gets a reset and starts jumping forward. That can go horrendously badly right from the offset. Hook lands
Nice
again.
catch onto Zerg, but Leon is not the easy one to take down. We'll be able to get it in the end higher there, but look, Wilhelm's here. Looking for the steal, won't be able to get it as Magikarp secures the dragon, and now the Olaf in a lot of trouble. Does not have flash to go over the wall, so will just fall. Nerd Rage pick up 2 more kills and their first dragon of the game.
What you said about Herald applies directly here. It's a sunk cost fallacy. Okay, Leona's dead. We've got to still try and get this dragon, right? Olaf goes over, flashes, dies, loses the dragon anyway, and you think, oh man, we're really in a lot of trouble now. The same kind of thing with Herald. It's the thing is like, what is it worth to get this objective? If you're losing 2 waves, 3 waves, a death on your AD carry, it loses a lot of its appeal to these teams. The first fight does not go well for Hive. The second fight goes even worse. And now Nerd Rage have themselves a very firm foothold in this game.
Nerd Rage looking very, very strong in their second match of the UKEL season. And remember, they've already got a win on the board, so going undefeated in the first week, looking at the opposition they had to play against would be an exceptional return for them.
Make all those people who made all those tier lists look a bit foolish then, huh?
I actually think that we were all right on Nerd Rage. I don't think we were that. We were very hype on Hive, so that's a little bit concerning if they go 0-2 in the first week. But 12-2 in a dream, that's all you really need. The Rift Herald has been dropped top from from Hive Central, even. Sorry about that. So they're going to be looking to grab some of that money if they can. Plates are still available, so try to put that one into Shen, which is maybe not the best option.
Well, they're trying to share it with Olaf. I think it's just where they have people around right now, because bot side of the map being pretty controlled by the Nautilus and the Kaiser, and yeah, Tristan in a bit of a bad spot. Echo was roaming up, maybe 30-something on
goes golden. Camille has to be careful, but that's another kill from the Lilia onto the Lilia. In fact, Zyke looking for a stun, won't be able to land it onto the Olaf, so a nice play from Hive Central, pick up lots of plates and a kill, and could continue the siege further.
When Echo gets the push in mid, when you're not threatening them and not allowing, when you're allowing Echo to just queue the wave uncontested, he gets to do stuff like this, run across the map, have that mobility, have that side lane potential, and this buys a kill and a tower top lane for Hive.
We'll be able to pick it up just before the plates fall off as well, which means that they get the maximum gold for it. And as you said, that money on the Olaf is going to be very, very important to them. In the bot side, Vanguard looking for the damage. Zerg gets another engage on as well. Nice ultimate will only slow up here, but it's going to be enough to secure the kill. Shut down for Vanguard, but teleport behind is going to be troublesome. It's 3v3 with I Won't Lose joining the party with the ultimate as well, and they might even look for a dive. Look at the side, just go down and coming forward as well. Next one from Flajian looking to get onto Vanguard, but won't be able to get enough damage to get the kill, and Flajian's actually going to be the one going down. I Won't Lose now will get locked up. Mastic has to jump away, but everyone is so sleepy. Vanguard will go down on the side, but the rest of the team is very, very low.
Lilia can clean this up.
Lilia could look for the cleanup, gets another one with Zyke's help, who's now just floated down. Magic now joining the fight once again to go on a rampage, and that fight looked exceptionally good for Hive Central until the Lilia arrived.
It looked pretty bad for Nerd Rage when the Shen arrived, but they just overstay their welcome. Numbers advantages are not permanent. The roams were coming in. Lilia cleans up shop, and she's left it completely polished. She could eat your dinner off that, and is now very, very fed.
Absolutely, and Magikarp doing an exceptionally good job this game at just neutralizing everything that Wilhelm is trying to do. Olaf has now moved up to try and get a play onto this second Rift Herald, wants to be grabbing both of them this time around. Flajian up there will spot him out, but doesn't have all that much support, and with Tristana and Leona both in the area, this one's just going to be easily taken away from Hive Central. Again, they're going to want to use this one to grab some towers and get themselves their foot on the map, because right now Nerd Rage are still dominating.
Speaking of getting your footholds on the map across the board, it looks like Echo teleported bot, if I'm right there. So trying to use that momentary pressure when Nerd Rage were resetting. They didn't want to contest Herald, they just want to go back, use that gold that they built up in the last couple of minutes all across these fights to try and get a wave into that bot lane turret, maybe get some damage in there. Doesn't finish out the turret, but does maybe, well, at least like we were saying, Echo gets to go into a side lane now and start maybe pressuring out the Syndra, but actually it's the Camille who's head bot lane, so not the best lane assignment for that Echo right now.
Not optimal. Syndra up in the top side against Shen is probably not great for Nerd Rage. They need to be careful. Syndra does have flash available, so, you know, does have that ability to escape, and with no one turning up from Hive Central just yet, should be all right, but looking across the map, we got the third dragon of the game spawning up very, very shortly. The Ocean Dragon, the first of the Soul Drakes this time around. Do we think we're going to see a big fight over this one?
almost certainly there's a Shen top lane with ult, so whoever goes to respond, best have a global to get down there quick. It actually looks like Syndra has made their way down first, making sure they will be first on the scene. Lily chucking out Ease. As we were saying in a couple of the games on Thursday, just hitting one of those swell seas can be enough to distance people away because of the threat of the Lilting Lullaby coming in. Nerd Rage, start the dragon.
Nerd Rage are starting this one up. You can see members moving in from Hive. They want to contest this one. They're not giving it up without a fight, but all 5 members of Nerd Rage are there. Wilhelm bundling in with the Ragnarok. Will be able to take away the dragon, which is exceptionally good, but how will the fight go for them? It's an absolute mess as the Drowsy comes through. Echo needs to be careful. Goes to sleep. A lot of damage comes through from Magic. But Magic has to go golden with that. Zhonya that's high, trying to put out the damage. Double kill for Lilia as the Fawn goes mad high, jumping forward for the third of the fight. Nerd Rage routing Hive Central there, and they're hunting for more. Vayngod and Disco Dano, only members left. Swellseed will hit the wall as Disco Dano and Vayngod take refuge under their tower.
Oh, Magikarp gets away with murder. How the heck do you survive that? Turns out having a Zhonya's is a pretty useful ability and an item indeed. They do give up the dragon. Hive managed to secure that. Last time we were saying, oh, okay, Olaf goes in, flashes, loses the dragon and dies anyway. At least this time they get that objective. It means that they get the 2 dragons earlier into the game. Of course, it would have been really nice if they were sat on Ocean Soul Point right now, but they have to play with what they've got. It was really interesting seeing how Hive wanted to approach that fight, but they didn't quite manage to land the parallel convergence onto the important members, didn't quite get everyone into the team, and Nerd Rage managed to use this phalanx with the Lilia going forward with the Zhonyas. This is why we see this item first so many times, because when you get to these kind of fights, get to go in with the ult, get to Zhonyas to reset things, it just makes it so hard to finish off things before the damage comes back online from Nerd Rage's carries.
Hive Central trying to finish off this mid tower to boot. Wannabe picking up that one before they start looking towards the Baron pit. Up in a minute and a half, and breaking down that mid tower is going to be so important to allow them to get that vision that is required to take the objective down. But Nerd Rage are looking in a very, very strong spot, and we've talked a lot about Magikarp, but the other members of the team are doing a great job. Masic 4-0-4 on the side lane. Camille has been doing a wonderful job at engaging. Haya has played exceptionally safely in these fights and finds himself 5-1-2 with that Kraken Slayer, so he's going to be putting out hilarious amounts of damage.
And some people will be asking what the item which all the AD carries are building right now. Yeah, if a Triss, Leona, Echo, Olaf, Shen are all going to try and get into melee range of you, Kraken Slayer does help a lot. If you escape the initial engage, you cleanse out, and you start returning fire, you want to burst down that Triss to the first person in, and that extra DPS is very important in these fights. We saw how close these fights were getting, particularly just that last one too. A couple of different interactions go another way, and Hive come out with the majority of those kills. I want to go back to that Camille point you were talking about, though. Does have that lead. This is the point where Shen, if he is in that side lane matchup, he's not in that, though. Camille's going bot.
Camille looking to go bot, but in the mid lane, there's a bigger fight going on. Vaygod's already been deleted. Now we're looking towards Zerg, who's tanky, but not that tanky. And with Nautilus saying, come here, let's get another kill. It's a double kill for Haya in the bot side. Camille does manage to pick up a kill for Zyke down there. So 3 kills going over to Nerd Rage. And with members on the top side of the map, they're going to set up for a 20-minute Baron.
Psych! Camille is not going against the Shen, going against, well, wherever they want, really. And now going into the Baron pit with all these death timers. It's a 2v5. This is looking pretty good for Nerd Rage. I don't think there's a contest coming through.
Wilhelm was thinking about it for a second, but decided against, moved away. On top side, Armut was looking for the reset, and a very, very early Baron from Nerd Rage will just compound their dominance in this matchup. They can use this to start breaking down towers. They've only got 1 so far, but with this Baron power play, they're certainly going to be looking for more.
Absolutely, because you get a whole load of gold from killing Baron 2. It's basically a kill per person. They've just got a couple of kills across the map. When they get these next resets, they are going to be absolutely chock-a-block full in the inventories, much further ahead than Hive will be on their side of the map. And now you have a Camille in the side lane who can push with this Baron buff. If you want to dive people, this Kai'Sa getting very strong too and has that second rank of ultimate, if I'm not mistaken, to join from a much further range than they could do before. If Camille or Syndra starts fighting in a side lane and lands a stun, expect Kai'Sa to be the threat unseen in the fog of war.
Kai'Sa as well as a champion is going to be absolutely in love with this Baron buff. Giving that AD and AP, remember, it's not adaptive. Yeah. You just get both. Kai'Sa's going to be absolutely loving that one. Has the Collector as well. So in these fights, I expect it to be much less. Look how good Magikarp is too. Goodness me, where have the health bars gone from Hive Central? And they're going to pick up the tower top lane, which is very, very nice. Still pushing for more. And where can Hive Central mount a defense?
Where can they? it really does depend, because you're looking at this dragon and at least there are no minions in the river, right? You don't have to deal with that Baron buff. Maybe there's a chance to fight around that. They have to seed some turrets in, because if you fail and engage, lose members, and the Baron buff is still available, you probably lose an inhibitor rather than just your outer turrets. These inhibitor turrets looking a little bit more safe, but when you're going against the Syndra who has that long range stun, you don't want to stick around too long for that defense, because if that does land before you find a clean engage, you're just going to lose your health bars and lose all that control for the next couple of minutes.
Camille just clearing out bot side for Nerd Rage, going to be looking to grab that tower. Already 2 taken in the top side for them as well, as they move the bulk of their forces down towards Dragon. This is the 3rd Drake if it's stolen by Hive Central. Nerd Rage will only be picking up their 2nd. It's quite a unique game, in fact, where the Dragon taking has been very, very even, meaning that we're not looking at one of these very, very early Dragon buffs that we've maybe been accustomed to, as you can see Wilhelm and Zerg maybe looking to steal, won't be able to do so and decide, we're not committing to this, we don't want to lose a member right now. They're just going to give it over.
This is why it's dangerous having objectives syncing up with the Baron timer, because if you lose that fight, the Baron buff just means you get to shove down to the base with so much more effectively, because the minions survive much longer, they don't die to the tower, and you can get yourself a lot of standing gold from killing those structures. We've got 4 people in the bot side from Nerd Rage, just the Syndra holding up the mid lane. Yeah, there's a Shen ultimate, but it's not going to be about making those numbers advantages, because it would just end up being a fight. Well, I mean, at that point, oh, that's a big swell seed coming through, really dangerous again.
Yeah, it's absolutely devastating. And when you can hit that on a core member, there's the potential for a dive. Yes, Syndra is mid, but the Shen is top. Stand United could be used, but so could the Syndra moving down. No teleport available from the Syndra, so she will get there very quickly. But
yes,
the damage coming down on the tower, you want to be getting as many bricks as you can, spreading out the Baron buff as much as possible. And there goes another tower. And Nerd Rage like, we don't want the Syndra to teleport to us. We're just going to go to her.
So at least Shen's getting something on the top side, but this is just kind of farm for a Shen.
That's
not
Zerg
big engagement.
That's a huge shutdown going on to Wilhelm. Zerg needs to be careful. Flagian is there. Look at Magikarp coming on the side as well. Vanguard goes to sleep, and now the damage coming down. Shen is there, but not enough to save anyone.
Wow.
As another member goes down, it's going to be Zerg this time around, going so low, but she's still standing strong. Magikarp gets the damage down. This should be enough to take on the Leona, and now that Magic is here, it should be all she wrote. Nice use of the ultimatum to get the kill. Gone on Disco Dan, actually, and Wilhelm has returned to this fight. Shen is untouched. That's a double kill for Dano, who comes in the nick of time and completely silences Nerd Rage.
Late teleport from the Camille. Just go early. You can't afford to lose those kind of fights. And the Camille has a large enough lead to try and turn the tables once the Syndra goes down. Kai'Sa forced out of the fight early really well by the Olaf and the Shen too, means that it just Nerd Rage lose a lot of their damage, which is relevant early into the fight, and the only remaining damage they have left comes in too late to make a difference.
Excellent engage from Zerg as well. I just got to give that praise once again. Over the wall from Raptors, gets the
really
stun
good,
down.
yeah.
Following up with the flash and all of the CC available. If Syndra is removed early in these fights, yes, High and Magikarp do so much damage, but Syndra's doing so much as well. Has that huge burst that can just remove someone like Vanguard, who stayed alive much, much longer than he should have.
And then you have to ask yourself, well, you know, what the Hive gain from this? They get some shutdowns. That's good. Gets them some extra gold onto some carries that they really need to get ahead in this game to try and even up that DPS check that these fights are coming into. But they don't really get anything across the map. They don't get a dragon. They don't get themselves a Baron. It just buys them a bit of a reprieve and maybe some vision off of that fight.
Objectives not available to be taken. So yeah, it's maybe not the optimal time to win the fight, but you're going to take whatever you can as Hive Central. Any opportunity to slow down Nerd Rage's advance, and any opportunity to get some more gold, get those shutdowns, because remember, they're going to be getting a lot of gold off the back of lots of kills that they can grab. Still a 500 gold bounty on the Kai'Sa, 400 on the Camille. If you can catch these members, that's a decent chunk, and if you get those on both of those kills on the same carry, that's almost a full item.
Well, the response to that is catch him if you can, because you still have to dive into the Kai'Sa, who's got the ult, has a lot of items. There's a Nautilus there for Peel, and of course, when you have to go into, as you were saying, this mid-jungle duo, which is maybe not so good for the whole laning phase ganking thing, but in team fights, you got that huge scatter the weak multi-target stun if you have enough balls on the ground, and then the Lilia ult too. It gives it a much harder difficulty barrier to try and pull that off.
Objectives coming up now. Baron up in 5. Dragon up in just over a minute as well, which means that we won't have the simultaneous spawn. So both these teams are going to be centralized onto one objective if they want to take it on spawn. Nerd Rage have the advantages, looked good in most of the fights, but the last one crucially went the way of Hive Central. They've got the opportunity to try and push this one further.
Shen is pushed up, though.
Pushed up way too far right now. Looking for the ultimate, actually will be able to stand United away, but that's a massive tool used just to keep himself alive.
But he does manage to get out, and that does mean that there's a lot of members of Hive on the bottom side of the map. Maybe they can get this dragon on spawn. That'll be spawning relatively soon, but that leaves no one on the top side of the map to respond to this Baron.
They're going to be moving up there now, but it's already gone to just above half health, but they need to be a little bit careful. Olaf's on the bot side, so there's no smite steal available. He's not going to be able to get there anywhere near soon enough, and now the fight's kick off. Disco down and looking for the steal. Won't be able to find it. It's secured by the Kaiser, though. Nerd Rage. That was a little bit dicey there, but Haya's like, don't worry, I'm better than a smite anyway. It's fine. Baron on 5 members of Nerd Rage. Can they use this one to get themselves the dragon as well?
Just say, be really glad Echo didn't go for Lich Bane second, because that extra damage might have secured that objective. Shen's coming over the wall, though. Big engage. Parallel conversion coming in.
That's coming through as well. Vanguard jumping into the thick of things. Splasian is just walking through the fight like, excuse me, can I get out? But no, he can't. Vanguard picks up the kill and is now looking for more. High in a lot of trouble, gets the kill, but goes down. It's only Zerg that he managed to take away. Shen falling as well. A lot of the big damage leaders still available. Double kill for Magic in the backline, looking for another. Will be able to find it onto the Olaf and Dictadano. The only member remaining from Hive Central is running for the win. Zyke and Magic up looking for the chase, but so much damage coming onto the Syndra means that they will be deterred. But this should mean a dragon and even an inhibitor as Camille runs mid.
Echo's trying to maybe interrupt a wave. Actually, no, he's not just trying to get out safely. Yes, Echo needs to try and recall. This will be an inhibitor gone by Machek. I think Vanguard will be alive to defend the Nexus at least. The start of that fight looked really good and dangerous from Hive Central because there was like a 4-man Echo queue going across the team. That means that a lot of passives available to be popped by just auto attacks by Disco. Dano put out so much damage and made it out alive somehow from the back end of that team fight. But the DPS check goes the way of Nerd Rage. Well played from the likes of Machek and Magikarp to break up the fight and take apart the pieces. Really doing the divide and conquer thing pretty well. And they get themselves a dragon to boot on Soul Point now, a Nerd Rage.
Grab themselves a Soul Point and an inhibitor as well. Echo deciding that not going to be able to take on the could be a 1v1, grabs the Raptors instead in the enemy jungle. So, you know, 4 wins where you can grab them, but things are looking like they might be spiraling out of control.
Ye oldie min-maxing. Gotta take those Raptors. We've done it ever since they were called raids. I know that as a... Yep, that was the Season 4 mid lane special. Just, who needs junglers with gold, right?
Exactly. I'm just... Let me nab those real quick. I'm the real carry here. Just going to be picking up this blue buff as well, but on the bot side, you've got members from Nerd Rage looking to break down the last tower standing outside of the Hive central base. They should be able to do this in pretty short order. Members of Hive are moving down to defend, but they do need to be a little bit careful. They only have Shen top side with teleport and Stand United available once again, but it's going to take them a little bit of time to get in, and there goes the tower.
But we said that before the mid lane play, which Hive actually managed to get a really good fight off of. We thought, okay, it's just the Shen and top side, right? And then a big engage came in. The Leona managed to catch out the Syndra in the middle of the fight. This time, though, Syndra has a stopwatch, has a flash, didn't have either of those, and there's a hook onto Olaf, which actually means nothing. Okay.
They can just walk away a little bit, but they're getting the poke damage down, which is crucial. Those cannons are taking down the tower in short order, and it's very, very difficult for them to be cleared out. Disco now stepping forward to try and get rid of them. They do manage to get rid of both in the end. Tristana helping out with that one, but another minion wave is going to be crashing in. Nerd Rage very, very happy to keep on this siege, but with Baron turning out right now, they're going to need to commit if they want to take this objective. And there goes Mashik. He's going for the commitment, going for the ultimatum onto Zerg of all people, who is going to be able to stand alive with the
big stun.
Big damage coming through and a huge stun means that I'm going to lose. Stepping into the back of the fight, but looks at his backline is like, oh, well, they're gone. Got to make something of myself, though. And Haya is going to rip him apart. Double kill for the Kaiser. And that will probably be it. Desgadano and Wilhelm still standing strong, but their base, I cannot say the same.
Absolutely not. 2 men against the world. It's the Echo and the Olaf. Olaf's got stunned again. It's just CC lock. He goes down.
And in the backside as well, it's only going to be Disco Dano available. He's looking for the fight. The teleport comes down and the Nexus explodes. Nerd Rage go undefeated, and they topple all the people who made the tier lists.
That they do. Back and forth. This was not an uncontested game. I love that turnaround from Hive Central in that mid lane, and a lot of that did come off of Zerg on that Leona. Very, very close to making that into a big team fight win. It did seem like the same story across most of the team fights, though. They get some advantages, but not enough to actually get something on the map. Not enough to really get themselves the next phase of play in their advantage. Nerd Rage just kind of run over most of the other fights, and they take the win.
And I think this is going to start breeding two separate questions now. And I think the biggest one that most people are going to be asking is maybe the less important question is, are Hive as good as everyone said they were going to be? Because they are now 0-2, and we talked and we said, look, they were against Device Academy first game. It was very, very close, but they made one mistake at the end, which cost them the game. Let's just write that one off. It was variant. It'll be fine. They'll get their revenge in the reverse matchup, maybe. Move on to this game. They fell to Nerd Rage. This game was very, very convincing from Nerd Rage.
It was, yeah.
Are we gonna talk this one down to Hive being worse than we thought they were, or are Nerd Rage just much, much better than a lot of people thought they were?
So there's a lot to be said from this game, right? Because we talked about how Hive, they played together more for a longer period of time. That probably means their communication's a bit more on point. I'm not sure it was there this game. Because Olaf, which started things off, and then also the Trist dying in that 1v2 situation, they feel like that should have been known that was a likelihood beforehand, right? Because you have the information where people on the map, you know where Leona is going to be roaming, you know where the top lane is in regards to your enemy opponent and stuff like that. It felt like Nerd Rage just understood the safe bounds and the opportunities available to them better than Hive did this game. So Hive will need to go and review and say, what was the information being given out at this point? Can we improve on that?
Well, they're going to have to go away and do that. Nerd Rage will jump to the top of the table alongside London United. And in our final game of the day, we'll have to see if Demise Academy can do the same. Standing in their way, it's Monster Rugby Gaming. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final game of the first week of the UKEL Spring Split 2021. I'm Viperio, joined by Namira, and this league keeps just giving us amazing matchups. I was thinking about this earlier when I was watching Grant and John taking us through the first 2 games of the day. Every matchup feels like a big match, and that is including this last one, Demise Academy up against Monster Rugby Gaming.
What it means by that is no match feels unwinnable for a team. There is every given chance that we could have a completely opposite set of results next week heading into those matchups too. That could genuinely happen, and I wouldn't be surprised. This is because so many teams are finding their feet. There's actually a very high level of talent across every single roster, and it can just be one mistake or one moment of inspiration in pick and ban, which can really help these teams find their victories or losses.
And in that last game, we saw that any team can beat any team. Nerd Rage taking down Hive Central in a really exciting matchup over there. And Demise Academy want to be proving that they can have the distance to win both of these games this first week, set themselves up at the top of the table alongside London and Nerd Rage as well now, and look to press on from there. On the other hand, Monster Rugby Gaming had a bit of an unfortunate first game. We could chalk that one off and see how they do, but this is the Demise Academy roster that's looking to take 2-0 in the first week. Sin, Leon, Kurosh, Fuyu, and Little Pants. And a lot of these players we don't know that much about, but definitely came out swinging game number 1.
They did, and of course I didn't get a chance to watch that one. Well, I didn't cast that one match. And on the other side, of course, it is Monster Rugby. So that's Synapse, Goose, Davidoff, Keverman, and the Mask of Jelly. And Mask of Jelly, of course, being a very high-ranked Bard main from my knowledge. There's a lot of... whereas in the last game, I thought, oh, wow, this is a really jungle-centric match. Oh, there's some really cool stuff going on there. I wonder if this will be more down towards that bot lane, actually.
Yeah, interestingly, Monster Rugby Gaming, a couple of name changes on that one. It's Ispiny, not Mask of Jelly now, so definitely a nightmare using those special eyes to stop us.
The mask has been removed. No more
like,
support. So.
I am someone who can't be OBGG'd because I've got special eyes in my username. That didn't make my research hard at all.
For sure. Wow, it sounds like you're a bit of that, Viper.
I'm never better. I love spending 15 minutes trying to copy paste eyes into my browser. Game goes on, but let's talk about the exciting matchup. And I think it's going to be one that a lot of people will agree with. Down in that marksman role, Fuyu, a name that we all know from the UKEL, has been around a very, very long time, coming up against Keverman, who a lot of people are saying very, very talented player, maybe the best Irish talent that they have in the ERLs right now. In the UKLC and UKEL, I should say, other than maybe BB Muffin, didn't have the best game in the first match of this series. Monster Rugby didn't have the best game overall. This matchup is going to be very, very crucial and successful for both of these teams.
Yeah, because on the other side, of course, you've got a player in Fuyu who has got, according to Previs, a good friend of the broadcast, of course, high highs and low lows. So if we have this sterling talent on the other side that's really looking to be a win condition for the team versus Fuyu on the high end of the roller coaster of form and performance, this could be a really fun bot lane. And actually, speaking of that, we're into draft.
And to make some bounds, what's going to be taken away? What's going to be left available? Thank you. Sona's gone. We don't want this nonsense. Demise Academy were one of the let's draft something that's completely whack. In the words of Doctor on our casting notes, they played Kaiser top from Sin, and they drafted a composition that didn't really have engage. So we'll have to see if they can do that.
You say that, and things. I was watching that game, and it looked so frustrating up until they got Baron. And the whole thing about that is like they played 5 range champions, and they had stall for days because they had double Moonstone bot lane. They had the Lux Sonar, of course, the Sona's been removed there. If you can stall until you just win 1 Baron, you only need to have 1. You have 5 range champions with a Fire Cannon Protobelt TF that can just run at you and land a stun. You can't defend your turrets, and Baron just ends up winning you the game. I thought that composition was really disgusting as soon as they got that objective. But with the Kai'Sa being removed and the Soraka too, it looks like a lot of like-for-like champions being taken off the board.
But the Seraphine is the one who sneaks through, so will be locked in instantly as a nice flexible pickup for all 3 lanes on the bottom side of the map, mid, support, and marksman. You can see the Annie ban. That's not, your eyes don't deceive you. Davidoff did pick that one up last game. It had mixed results, but Gragas and Olaf being picked up on the side of Demise have given themselves 2 very strong pickups, and Gragas could be flexed into a lot of different roles.
We were talking about the same thing with the Zed ban and the Ivan ban in the last game. Just because a champion isn't best in the draft, because the player is so proficient on it, it's just worth getting rid of it. Don't let them do their crazy one-trick stuff. I'd say that as a one-trick Ari who hates competitive play because I don't play other champions. With speaking of other champions, Hecarim's locked in.
Hecarim being taken as well from Monster Rugby Gaming. I really like that pickup. We'll have to see where they decide to grab their third choice. Could be the support or the marksman, maybe to pair with that Seraphine if they don't want it in the solo lane. We'll have to see. Looking towards the Karma being locked in. Another flexible pickup. They're not wanting to give up their strategies easily in this first 3 picks.
No, we have double flex, honestly. Karma can be played in support, can be played in mid. The thing is that, like, the thing with flex picks is that you think, oh man, I don't, say if you've got a set something, man, set top's kind of meh right now. Yeah, but if you manage to win your 2v2 because you've used that to get a better matchup somewhere else, as long as it's okay in that role, it's fine. Rise locked in, that can be a really good answer to someone like a Karma in that solo lane, because you tend to like just walk up and just like chase them down, but of course there's still that flex potential there.
Yeah, could be going somewhere else, and if the Karma wants to be going top lane, the Rise could even follow her up into that role. Galio going to be taken off the table as the first ban away, and honestly, no marksman being picked up this game yet, but with Seraphine there, maybe
there's a chance
more
of the carry bot. We're going back to the awesome dudes meta of 2018, where you just kind of chuck whatever you're feeling like down the bot lane. Darius, sure. Vladimir's great, sure, right. But right now, it does look like there are a couple more solo lane bans, or, well, again, flex picks. Again, Galio can be put anywhere it wants, really. And the Aurelia, I think Aurelia's been very underrated by a lot of different teams. Aurelia has a lot of matchups you can just snowball just out to absolute heck. But removing it, just saying, look, maybe we don't want that versus something like a Karma top.
Viperios being taken off the table as well. Pick is becoming more and more popular this patch when he kind of fell out of favor for the second half of 2020. Well, after the memes stopped, Avelios stopped.
After they nerfed him into the dirt, yeah.
They're like, stop making jokes about design and experience. Get rid. Just kicked him off a cliff, and then but he's gotten back now a little bit, which is quite nice to see. And the last ban will be the Lulu, so not wanting to give that flexible pickup another option. MRG a bit, it's a bit rude. You flex picked a lot of stuff. You're like, we don't want to see any flex picks against us. But now we'll have to see where Demise Academy want their final counter pick, and it looks like they're thinking about support right now.
Well, remember the Gragas can be put down there. Senna we've seen once before. That was in the game cast a little bit earlier on the Thursday. It's actually going to be Samira locked in, so got potential for the Samira Gragas bot lane. You belly bop into the ultimate. You got 2 of those knockups for Samira to get that chain CC passive coming up with the extra knockup that she does end up giving you. Whereas on the other side, maybe looking at something like a Sivir for the spell shield. We saw this from G2 in the LEC, actually. They picked up this, and if you lock it up with something which does require that move like the Hecarim, gives you a couple of options. It's not going to be that, though. Something a little bit more meta is going to be the Xayah. So Gale Force AD carry user has incredible scaling.
Monster Rugby going to have to be showing their hand with their last pickup. Interestingly, Maokai hasn't been seen last game and hasn't yet been talked about this game, really. Very, very strong pickup, both in the top lane and in support for very different reasons. We'll have to see if either of these teams want to be throwing it down. But, Monster Rugby already have a couple of supports, so maybe they don't need a third one.
Maokai did get hit by the Imperial Mandate nerf and their own personal nerfs in patch 11.2, which we're currently playing on. So maybe that's just saying, look, it's not worth, even if we're practiced with it, just doesn't do what it was doing in the last patch. Let's just get rid of it. Victor, though, doing completely the same stuff. Scales up into Oblivion in the mid lane. But one of the answers to that champion is something like a Yone that can go right on top of them, be that assassination threat. And maybe they just want to move this Rise into the top lane instead.
Yeah, it looks like they are going to do just that. Yone being the final lock-in. Of course, it could be Yone top if they were feeling that one as well. So they do have a little bit of internal flexibility.
Wait, Karma top. It is. It's the thing.
it's the thing that, like, I mean, that's... Okay, talk to me about Karma top into Yone.
There is an analyst who has done many wacky Karma builds for many years called Shakaraz. He's worked with the LEC on their content team, very active on Twitter, and has played stuff like Iceborne Gauntlet, Karma for many years. I'm trying to remember if it's actually Divine Sundra Karma top lane is the current new hotness, or whether this will just be, we're building Moonstone. That's it. That's what you're going to do. Whereas it looks like it's going to be the Yone into the Karma. That's the preferred matchup from the side of Demise, whereas they're going to use the Demise Rise, that's great, into the Victor in that mid lane.
So that's an interesting way of deciding it. Do you think this is basically... Do you reckon Demise like these matchups more, or do you think they like the players playing these matchups more?
I think either way, we're going to get to a point where we've got Samira Gragas just wave clearing mid, and we've got Yone and Ryze in a side lane somewhere trying to set up that 1-3-1 with the Olaf kind of pinging between lanes and trying to invade aggressively. I am not sure on a lot of these matchups because I don't know what Karma's going to build, and a lot of these champions have changed quite a lot recently. So yeah, and Ryze has not been too prevalent. Yeah, this could be an interesting game to see how each of these guys. And I mean, I know interesting as a word was quite vague, but it's going to be important to see how both these teams view each of these individual carries in solo, like each of these champions in the solo lanes, and say, we need this matchup in a solo lane if we want to control this map.
This is going to sound weird, but I'm not in love with either of these compositions. I can't put my finger on exactly why. I think they both have positive points, but I'm just looking at them and a gut feeling is just, what do they really do?
I have a couple of problems with Hecarim being the only person that can really engage effectively from the side of Munster, and so we've seen this quite a lot. If you over-engage into a Gragas, he just casks you further into the team. You don't get out, you just die. If you look at the follow-up from the side of Munster, it's pretty slow. You can Gale Force forward with the Xayah. If you hit someone's W auto, you get that extra 30% movement speed. That's great. Sure, you can start running forward. But if you do that into the Ryze, who immediately roots you and kills you, yeah, okay, maybe not the best option either. So maybe you're waiting to play the Vision game and get a huge Seraphine ult. That's maybe the play, and then use the Hecarim ult to kind of secondary engage. So that's kind of my take on the Munster comp. Although, of course, you do have that double carry from the Karma and Seraphine, which will add an extra factor of scaling into these really heavy carries of Zara and Victor, which do scale into the late game. On the other side, seems much less of the death ball, but you do have the ability to just kind of like Gragas separate the team, try and punt Seraphine into your Olaf and your Ryze and stuff like that. And Samira and Yone are both incredible pop-off champions too.
For me, it's one of those Stampede compositions from Munster, but you didn't draft Sivir. So, you know, I mean, there's the opportunity to make these slow champions move very, very quickly. You've got the Karma who could ulti and get all that shielding and the speed coming through. Seraphine could do a very, very similar thing as well. So there is the opportunity of running very quickly at the enemies for a short period of time. But as you say, does Victor really want to be doing that? Does Xayah really love doing that? Not particularly. And there is disengage. Gragas, of course, has huge amounts. And it's just, I'm not sold.
On the other side, Demise don't have a long-range composition themselves. Yone, yeah, I guess you can run forward with the E, sure. But that's very telegraphed. You don't really want to be doing that, particularly if you're running on a bit of a retreat. Olaf can absolutely get on top of your backline in the right situation because you're going to fire out the Seraphine ult and it's just going to run through it and murder you horribly. Ryze and Samira do not get outranged by the Victor. The gravity field, I think if the Munster turn up to an objective first and they have to run through Xayah, Feather, Seraphine, everything, and Victor gravity field, then yeah, I like this Munster comp. But if it's ever in kind of like an open field, then I can't see how they ever get on top of the carries they want to.
I think Munster have a good defensive composition if they can, as you say, have the advantage in these areas. Around objectives, they need to be the first ones there. They are good at defending positions, but if Demise get there first and are quicker on the rotations, then I think that's going to be a pretty rough one for Munster to try and get on. And this is interesting because it was last game, Demise were the team that were having problems engaging. Their engage was, we're going to Messiah our Twisted Fate into your backline, which is fine as like a not only engage.
Rocket Belt Fire Cannon TF with a gold card does cover about half a screen worth of stun, and they managed to use that just about. It didn't help that, of course, there was a Lulu on the other side as well. But coming into this game, they don't have that same ability to just like have that point and click stun. I think the Yone ult is going to be huge this game, and Yone has Ignite.
We're into the final game of the week from the UKEL. Monster Rugby Gaming on the blue side versus Demise Academy on the red. Demise could go undefeated if they pick up a win here. Monster Rugby Gaming still searching for their first, but it's only been one game. It's not been a long wait. Nightmare, who's winning this game then?
I am going to give it over to Demise. I think I have a couple of problems when you do tend to index too heavily into enchanters, because if you fall behind in a game, you tend to get a little bit stolen, or get the vision game stolen away from you, and that's really sucky when you've got a Yone ult to be watching out for. And Olaf, that tends to just hammer you down, and of course Gragas being in that support role, bringing that ability to displace people either in or out of a team fight. So right now, going to go for Demise's team comp.
I'm going to give it to Monster because you were wrong in the last game.
Oh, come on.
I'm working on the assumption that you'll be wrong this one as well. And I mean, it's the UKEL. Anything and everything can happen. We saw an Annie ban this game, and it wasn't a haha, we banned Annie. It was we're going to ban a champion you played previously ban.
Yes.
So it's one of those. Anything could happen. Minions are crashing, and where do you want to keep our eyes in this early game?
Very good question. I think for me, it kind of has to be on where the Olaf's going. I think Olaf has a couple of different ways to go into it. I look at this Seraphine, I'm like, okay, right, you're probably just going to poke out this bot lane. Unless Demise find a really good opportunity to look for that 2v2, like a missed body slam, we're probably not going to see too much in this bot lane.
No, and Gragas missing that body slam takes a big heap of poke on the way out, so definitely has to be landing those abilities early on if you want to get that engaged, because trading on the way out against the Zarya Seraphine is really, really rough.
I mean, you get some sustain from Gragas passive, but if you don't proc your Aftershock in the earlier parts of the trade, when you do get the initial turnaround, then you get a little bit awkward run. You just kind of have to waddle your way out of there without any of the resist, and it feels pretty bad.
A little bit rough, but looking over the rest of it, Olaf and Hecarim just trading sides, nothing too exciting, no early invades except for a little bit of vision on the bot side, so are we looking to just clear and look for ganks?
Yeah, let's split up and look for ganks. That's probably the way that we're going to go if we're going to go Scooby-Doo style. I guess we're just looking to see what's happening with the clears. Both of these junglers don't want to get counter-ganked by the other. That's the real danger, I think. And I think that's the real thing with a lot of these clear junglers. We saw this with stuff like Ivern and Olaf matchups. When you've got Talia coming into places, actually it's the counter-gank which tends to be more effective than the initial gank itself. So you need to have really good information on where the enemy jungler is to make sure that actually you are the only person on that side of the map coming out of that jungle.
Keep eyes on both those junglers then as they come out of their first clears. Just be making sure that they can get the most bang for their buck, because last game we saw a couple of junglers where it was very, very different in their first ganks, and Nerd Rage basically didn't let up from there, so definitely worth keeping an eye on who is the more successful early game in this one.
Well, more bang for the buck, but there are no bucks, fawns, or does in this game, as Lilia has of course not been picked, and we're left with a very angry man and a very angry half-man horse. That's my analysis of these champions. I'm not a jungler.
Centaur? Is that the word you're looking for?
Yes, it is, but it makes it sound more funny if I say it that way, Will.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I didn't realize that. I've been calling, I think I've been incorrect in calling, I've been calling Lilia a fawn, which I don't think is actually technically correct, but it seems mad to me that we have multiple.
Well, that's the question, right? It's like I don't know. Is Bulbasaur a cabbage? It's a very in-depth philosophical question. Is Lilia a fawn, or is it technically a centaur? You know what? I'm not qualified for this on mythological identification of half creatures. I do know that Samira's been rooted up.
Yeah, decent amount of damage coming down onto the Samira, but nothing too exciting, and it's very different from the bot lane we saw last game, right? So you've got Samira Gragas and you've got Zarya Seraphine, who both are like, oh, we can get some engage going, but the other team's kind of going to walk off, and there's not really the damage yet to secure anything, but it's a nice change of pace that we're going to be looking elsewhere for the early action. Davidoff and Kurosh having a bit of a trade in the mid side. Davidoff not having the best of times in this one, going pretty low, but Victor definitely knows how to scale.
Absolutely does. In a previous season, this would be a bit of an awkward lane state for the Victor because you wanted to stay in lane for the Hex Core upgrade. And if you use too much mana early, even if you think, wow, I'm getting good trades, you still don't have enough mana to keep yourself in lane and keep yourself able to trade and farm in a tower and stuff like that. Now you just have to hit the CS. You got teleport to reset. In fact, actually, they've done that to get the amp tone. But you don't have to wait for that really big boatload of gold to get your first upgrade. You just need to get kill participation and keep yourself farming and make sure you especially hit those cannon beans.
First dragon has been started up, this time around by Demise Academy, but there's a play coming in bot from Monster Rugby Gaming. They want to get a fight going. Nice body slam from Little and will deny the Hecarim engage. And a very confused Goose is like, what has happened? Infernal Dragon picked up by Demise Academy, though. They'll be very, very pleased with that return.
They literally just did like a belly bump. That's what they did. He just goes, so Little Plans, he goes in and he goes out even quicker.
That was a unique interaction.
The most macho of greetings in the bot lane.
No, they're just bros coming out of this one, but Dragon is secured by Demise Academy, so they'll be the happier of the two teams from that exchange. Gold very, very even at this early point of the game. But no, there's not really been very much action in this one so far.
And I think that goes towards, I mean, Seraphine bullies in lane, but doesn't tend to have quite so much kill pressure because, you know, it's quite obvious, like, when the damage is coming in. You don't really get to have, like, 100-0 threat. It's just continual pokes, which just always lands because of your target accessibility with that Q being so easy to hit. Whereas on the other side, you do get to have stuff like that.
Speedy gonna go pretty low, but we'll be able to dance out of this one. And now we're gonna get the fight coming off in earnest. Teleport coming down. Fuyu goes low. Kevin Man might be a little overextended. It's gonna be Demise coming through with Sin there just for some defense, but crucially nothing comes out of it. So that's a teleport that now can't be used to get back to the top lane.
There is going to be a reset from both bot lanes, so at least Yone gets to take the wave. So technically, I guess, as long as the bot lanes get back at similar times on both sides, the same amount of farm has been picked up on either side. But yes, the global is now gone from the side of Demise, and Yone will not be impacting the map in that way. At least the dragon's already down. It means that maybe if Sin is going to be sticking around for a couple more waves on the bot side, Herald won't be as easy to contest from this red team. But for now, not too many consequences.
Well, lane from Monster Rugby moving towards the top side. Want to be getting the priority around the Rift Herald as it is spawning in just under a minute's time. Goose picking up the blue buff as Seraphine waltzes past. But
oh, really interesting.
Like this lane swap from both teams?
I mean, so it's going to be the Samira and the Gragas very early swap into the mid lane. Normally we see this after the first couple of towers down, after the Herald's already gone. Jigsaw going really close into that Samira.
You going low though. Hecarim bundles in with the ultimate, won't be able to land it though. Samira able to get away Gragas there just to make sure that there's no dive potential, and Rise will turn up to the party as well. Demise Academy actually looking to move forward a little bit, maybe return this fight to its former glory, but won't be able to do so in a forced back away. But I mean, chaps, like you said, that Samira's probably just going to be clearing out mid lane, but a little bit.
I didn't mean it from 7 minutes. And I mean, I know that AD carries are pretty strong right now. I know that there are a lot of items, and Samira's definitely up towards the top of that tree. But you also, like, don't dive into a Chaos Storm. That's probably not good for your short-term or long-term health. I don't think that's covered by any kind of healthcare plan.
I don't think so, and you have to be careful. But has now heard you, has moved to the top lane. You know, a little bit of a better lane assignment in that one. Both bot lanes now in the Australia lane format before this Rift Herald, and Jungler's definitely interested in this one as well. Olaf already up there. You can see Hecarim moving up as well, and Victor and Rise all being there means that we could be in for our first big fight of the game.
It could be, but then you got the teleport on the Karma, and the Karma is already pretty high value at this point because you've got shields and you have your ultimate very early on. What's really important here, though, is that Rise gets to push in mid, so it's not going to be an immediate start onto the Herald on the side of Monster Rugby, because, of course, Hecarim doesn't really want to go there without the mid prio. Olaf is also looking towards topside, though, so you're right. This is definitely the focus for the next minute or two.
Karma able to get a stun down, but needs to be careful. Kurash is there, and Yone coming in for the dive, getting the damage down. First blood goes over to Kurash on the Rise, and Monster Rugby Gaming need to try and trade that back for something. They're looking to get priority over the Rift Herald, but Demise don't want to give it up.
So at least Monster Rugby, they're in the situation where they get to the objective first. We talked about that being important because they want people to engage into them, engage into the gravity field, the feathers, the Seraphine, E, and the ult, and of course Hecarim can follow up on top of all that stuff. It looks like, though, Demise Academy, they've kind of got what they came for on the bottom side. They've got Yone, was in kill participation, denied some farm, some gold, and got some from the Karma, and then of course the turret plates go over too. They're just kind of happy with this whole situation. Again, we said it in the last game. What do you give up for a Herald? You give up a kill, give up a couple of waves into tower, and I guess Demise Academy take that trade.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless they can get a lot off the back of this Rift Herald, Monster Rugby Gaming, Demise Academy are going to be absolutely chuffed to pieces to grab first blood and 2 plates on their Yone. And now they can look to move the champions back to their previously held roles. We've got the bot laners going back. Bot Dragon up in about 15 seconds. It will be a Cloud Drake for the second one of the game. We could see another Ocean. We had that one as the soul last time around, but not picked up. So maybe looking to grab that one a little bit earlier. But Demise want to be grabbing priority in this lane as quickly as possible. But Kevin Man trying to clear the waves as quickly.
We'll be able to get a decent amount of wave play down there. There's only a couple of minions left. Just goes up in melee queues. Yeah, absolutely. I guess. Oh, one thing to check in on as well as this dragon spawns. This is actually going to be a Moonstone Karma, as you can see, is currently getting engaged onto the Yone. Maybe, yeah, should have gone for the Divine Sunderer. Yeah, get more down. No, of course. It's just, this is built for the Death Ball Karma kind of composition. You group up, get AoE shields, and you're there to support your other members and just hold lane across the map. Has the teleport right now. Dragon has spawned. Have to see whether the dive's going to come in again, though, because they're back at it.
Synapse is really hating life right now. Can't get the root off onto Kurosh and will just go down. Rise picking up the second kill of the game, but
no!
as well. Synapse returning that one for one. And with Dragon being picked up by Monster Rugby Gaming, they'll be really happy with that trade.
And for once, it is not the samurai saying "Omae wa mo shinderu." It's the turret as he flies off into the distance, firing the parting shot, nails Sin right in the back.
Just so sad with the ultimate. It looked good, but Goose has to ult away himself. But Little Pants will knock him right back into the action. Goose will be running towards Synapse with the teleport. Ragnarok has been used, so the root won't come through. So if you're not able to land the ultimate, but the damage is coming down thick and fast. Leon is gone. Davidoff picking up the first kill of the fight, and now looking towards Little Pants. Lots of damage coming from the Victor, but the Gragas will waddle away using the cast and the body slam to get out of dodge. Monster Rugby Gaming pick up a little bit of damage on the backside from that tower, but they're the ones who pick up the kill. They leave Kurosh top, though, so a lot of money being earned by the Rise as well.
Oh, that's peak like Season 5 or Season 7 Karma coming in with the huge shield turnaround. And that can be really important. Uses that global. We talked about, okay, they're kind of dunking on Karma in the side lane. What happens when they turn up to the team fight? That's what happens. Extra couple of 100 HP and shields coming through. Saves the day for the side of Monster Rugby. And no, they the side of Demise don't choose to teleport in. They lose the fight. And they lose a lot of plates from that Herald summoned on the bot turret.
3 members getting a little bit of a gold injection from 3 plates coming down. But Kurosh, meanwhile, looking to get the first tower of the game in the top side, will be able to do it with the ultimate available as well.
Oh, that's clever. I like that.
But I really like the ultimate getting him out.
I like that. It saves the flash if you know someone's going to roam up. And of course, they saw that with their red ward in that tri-brush on the top side. And not tri-brush, the other one, the bush near the top lane tower. That's what I'm calling it. That's the official name. Yeah, that's
it's a triangle.
Appropriate information was gathered by Kurosh. Ults out, saves the flash, goes back, buys a Leandries instead of going for something like the Ludens. So gonna have more ability haste in the build, as that's the mythic stat, and of course has the HP component into it too. We're also saying about the burn component too, better against higher HP and higher. Ooh, that's the Yone on the bot side. Stop talking about items, Alex.
Everman needs to be careful. Gets the root down. Seraphine is there as well, so Yone could take a lot of damage on the backside here. Gets the kill, but will fall with Davidoff and teleports in for the quick return. 1 for 1 in the bot lane.
Yes, and I was having a conversation with my lovely partner earlier in the day, and I was talking about, one of the reasons Zed isn't played is because you have to split push and you take Ignite. And the problem with playing a, Flash Ignite split push is that it's kind of like being the Internet Explorer split push. You turn up to everything late and no one particularly likes you. So what Sin has done the best of both. What's Flash? No. There is no support for Flash on this Internet browser anymore. We're going to have Teleport and Ignite. Goes down, uses that, the heal comes through, it's cut, the extra damage comes through, he gets a kill. Well played.
Fun fact, I actually use Microsoft Edge as my preferred browser.
Do you also listen to My Chemical Romance and Linkin Park? Is that what comes with having the Edge?
No, I don't like those bands. I'm just, you know what? I just like, I like what it does, and I don't need this. Other internet browsers are available. We're not sponsored by Microsoft Edge, but if Microsoft want to reach out to me for a personal sponsorship.
Wow, I really need to learn a thing or two about product placement here, Will, because this is smooth.
Yeah, you know me. If people want to look at how good I am at sponsor reads, watch back the new last split, Levi's sponsor reads.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
They were fun. Phil knows he was a producer for a lot of those. He was loving life, but let's get back into the game. 14 minutes, plates.
The important thing I got from that is actually you hate Linkin Park and My Chemical Romance, and now I have to leave.
You know what? Contrary to my massive amounts of hair right now, not a huge fan of those bands, but huge fan of the Minds Academy right now. They've got a lot of gold in their pockets over Monster Rugby Gaming, but this game feels very, very even.
It does to a certain extent because we split the map. It looks like both mid laners are really the beneficiaries of this overall. 2 out of 3 kills on both sides, having a big going over to those mid laners, rather. We see that Samira getting pretty scary. Has a CS lead, has the mythic item built up just in time for this to roll around to the next dragon fights that will be spawning in the next couple of minutes. So I'm really looking now for where these mythics are coming in and whether this death ball of the Seraphine Karma shield combo can outweigh the individual power of something like this Rise or the Samira.
We might be about to find out. These two teams are looking for a fight. You can see the Rever is a tinderbox who's going to spark that match. All 5 members of Monster Rugby Gaming want to be getting around this dragon. It spawns in 20 seconds, and we've said time and again, they need to have the inside track on these objectives, and then they need to defend their position. It's very rough for Demise to try and get an engage on. Rise has teleported mid. They want to be fighting this one. It's going to be an interesting fight on both sides. Every single member is here from both teams. How are Demise going to get the engage off?
That's a very good question. They're starting off by getting feathers, and it looks like the Gragas has been caught.
Gragas was caught. He goes reasonably low, but will only be chased away and not killed. Fuyu goes to half health as well, and that is all Monster Rugby feel they need to start up the Dragon. Little Pants on the side, half health, looking for an engage. Nice setting up, nice cast, and he absolutely decimates Monster Rugby Gaming. Only Goose has gone down, but they're all falling, they're all melting, and Demise Academy, with the cleanest ace I've ever seen, pick up the Dragon as well.
Now you see him, now you don't! Taking no prisoners, Yone delivers death to the backline and to the damn front line too. Take Dragon, gonna go to the top side of the map. They're very, very fortunate on Monster Rugby that there's no Baron to be taken, even though it's only 17 minutes in.
Monster Rugby Gaming not practicing proper social distancing there, all standing on top of each other, allowing for the clean Gragas engage, and then Yone sweeps in with the cleanup as well, picking up Rift Help, picking up Dragon, picking up the tower mid, and what felt like a very, very even game has completely been blown out of the water. Monster Rugby Gaming need to regroup because Demise are pressing for more.
I think what really happened in that fight, and it's something which happens to Xayahs a lot, we've seen a lot of Xayah in the UKEL, saw a game earlier today, is that when a fight becomes multi-directional, and the same applies to Victor too, you really start to hate it as these carries, which have some disengage potential with the feathers, with the gravity field, but once it gets omnidirectional, Yone from one side, Gragas from another, got the Olaf and Samira getting into the thick of things, you can't handle you can't check all of your exit, can't check all of your directions, and you're left wanting to just try and retreat when you have no options left.
18 minutes into this one, excellent gold lead for Demise Academy. 2 Dragons to 1. They got themselves to both Rift Held. Well, they've got themselves a Rift Held in their pockets now as well. And you know, it's another Ocean Soul. I don't know if it's rigged or what, but we've got another one.
They decided we needed a holiday. Gonna have a beach holiday this time. That's the one. Oh, that's a big ult coming through.
A huge ult coming through. Teleport coming down as well. Davidoff needs to be careful. Has the gravity field running, and Synapse is there to help with the escape. Just airlifted in, gets the shield down, and they both sprint towards safety. Demise Academy will be happy to have used all those resources, though, and are now looking to get a play down in top lane. Courage versus Goose needs to be careful. Hecarim looking to scythe down the man in blue, and
that's big.
The teleport a little bit too slow from Sin to get the save and the kill, but will be chasing on towards Hecarim. But he is very speedy with all 4 of those legs, and will be able to back away. Kevman will be forcing Sin to take an early retreat from that play, and Monster Rugby Gaming picked themselves up a small victory.
Damage calculations good from Goose. Ends up getting up with sub 100 HP, but that is still a life. It's still a kill, and of course it's a shutdown onto the Rise too. Does have the 2 items. Before that last dragon fight, managed to complete that Archangel staff. Very important point of power for Kurosh, but it is going to be that shutdown, and that's important, because if you can prove that actually Hecarim's a factor. If you try and do this 1-3-1, where you do have Sin on one side of the map, going to all in one of these carries, and have the pseudo Soraka ambulance wee-wooing down into the bot lane by the teleport, if this Hecarim can upset those fights, then suddenly Demise need to rethink how they're approaching this map, and the lane assignments we said would be oh so important.
And Hecarim could be the one to break open this game if Monster Rugby are going to be able to do it, because we saw from the last Dragon fight, they are incapable of fighting in defensive positions when they allow Gragas to get a nice flank. They've had that one really rough team fight now. It's how they respond to that, and getting a pick will be the start of that. If Hecarim can get another nice engage, can look to pick people off, then it might look a little bit brighter for Monster Rugby. The speed of being picked off, that was textbook from Kurosh.
So, I mean, we saw that in the 5-man setup earlier, but blink and you miss it. Rise becoming a magician of a different sort, pulling out all the tips and tricks, but never revealing their secrets. Gets a kill onto their opposing mid laner.
It's like, do you want to see a magic trick? I'm going to make this Victor disappear. And then just hits him with the free stack. And now Demise moving onto the Baron buff, have the inside track, have the priority, and take it down so fast. Monster Rugby Gaming not even going to have an opportunity to respond with anyone, really, because it's already gone. Demise Academy will be able to chase the Hecarim off as well. And now they're really cooking on gas.
I love how decisive this Demise team is. That's a late W coming in from Fear, looking for something there, and actually gets a load of HP taken away from them for the mere thought of it. But I love this decisiveness coming in from Demise. Now they have themselves one of those big old Baron buffs to deal with. That means that the 1-3-1 setup they had going to be even more dangerous. Oh, Victor, you do not want to be there.
They actually just walked past each other like evening, and then realized they were on the other teams. Kurosh obviously winning that fight once again, but That was very slow reactions from both players.
So normally having ships in the night means that you actually don't end up running into each other, and Sin runs straight through Synapse.
Absolutely, another crucial dive there, and that's 2 members off the map for Monster that are needed in this defense. Ryze is teleporting bot, you've got Yone still in the top side. They're spreading out this Baron buff in a nice clean 1-3-1, which should allow them to get the maximum damage off these towers.
Absolutely, it's with the Baron buff. Whenever you lose a fight, lose a couple of members to a Baron buff, it just compounds itself. This is why you see so many people back off from these kind of plays. You see what Yone is doing. You just can't defend against this kind of 1-3-1. You have to collapse on one member, not go for these 1v1s right now.
It's brave from Monster Rugby Gaming, and it's not paying off for them at all right now. And it's difficult to defend a lot of these objectives. Everything outside the base has been taken off the table, so hopefully things will be a little bit easier. They can rotate a little bit faster, and maybe can look to catch members of Demise if they are still looking to split. But they've already backed away. Dragons on the map. They want to take this one, and again, Monster Rugby can do nothing about it. They're being set up for Soul Point if they can secure this one, and honestly, things are going from bad to worse for Monster.
It was already pretty bad, so worse than that is, yes, absolutely getting down the bottom of the barrel kind of situation that you do not want to be in, particularly when we're talking about having heavy enchanted teams. If you fall behind, you tend to really lose a lot of your options to control a vision game. You don't have a Nautilus or a Leona or an Alistair that can sometimes get out of those dangerous fog of war face checks. You have a Seraphine, you got a Karma. If you have a Victor walking into a Ryze, we saw what happened there. That happens for most members of the team of this Monster Rugby gaming team. What we need to see from them now is to try and break this this chokehold it looks like Demise have over this game and try and win back some of that vision and some of that pressure.
Goose might have been caught out here. It's just Monster Rugby Gaming players as far as the eye can see in the bot side, but Demise Academy have their own numbers as well. The stun from Kevman doesn't land onto anyone.
3v5, by the way.
And Ryze are looking to take down the first inhibitor of the game. Monster Rugby scrambling to get the return, trying to get away, but nice cast stops any kind of retreat. Fuyu now diving in, getting as much damage. He knows he's probably dead. He goes down for the shutdown on Seraphine. But look at the base. Ryze is already crashing onto it. Yone is there as well. Can they get down? They already got one of these towers. They get the kill onto Victor as well. Now Ryze going for a little teleport, trying to get onto Kevin Man. But will get the damage down. Double kill for Ryze as Goose is the one trying to stand, trying to defend alongside Types. They won't be able to get the kill on Sin as the triple kill comes down from the Ryze. There's the Quadra. Where's the 5th member? Spinny is there. Can Kurosh get the pentakill? Will they give it over? It looks like Little Pants might be wanting to. Not all the ace from Little Pants. Once again, another 2-0 team in the face of Demise Academy. They take the Nexus in a very convincing win.
A style on the last 2 minutes of that game. A 3v5 around the upper river. And then you've got a 2-man push into the base, which turns into a quadra kill for the Ryze, putting out so much damage. It wasn't just the Victor that was in danger of walking into that Ryze and walking away a little worse for wear. It's the whole damn team, and nearly comes away with a penta.
It would have been really, really nice to see, but you know, Lil Pants, credit where it's due, was trying to give it up, but Kurosh was like, I'm not really interested in all of that. You can just grab it yourself. You've played well this game, allowing the Gragas the final kill of the game. But Demise Academy, definitely the real deal in that one. They showed it time and time again, and the way they were playing those team fights was exceptional.
It was, because I think that one Dragon fight where we saw that super clean ace, it showed what we were missing from a couple of the teams we've seen in the last couple of games in terms of that communication aspect of it. We're thinking, okay, this needs to be a really clean engage, because if you fluff the engage into gravity field, Seraphine, and all this other stuff, you're gonna get choked. You're gonna get choked out of the game, because you can't really start. You have to decisively engage the fight before your health bars are chunked down, and they don't just chunk the health bars down; they decisively kill absolutely every member of the team.
And we talked about it in laning phase. We mentioned that the Gragas needs to land the engage off, needs to be getting that aftershock off. Otherwise, it's really rough to waddle out of things. And credit to Demise Academy, they were going, these engages only work if they're perfect. If the Gragas jumps in and doesn't hit anyone with the body slam, he's just dead, and the follow-up isn't going to be quick enough in order to get the kills that we need. But everything was played pretty much perfectly in that Dragon fight, and then the last team fight as well. You could see that it was a 3v5, but everyone was on the same page. Fuyu knew, I'm going to have to commit to go down really, really quickly, but I need to hold people as long as possible. Gragas was like, I'm committing my barrel, knowing that probably means that I'm not going to be able to get out myself because I need to stop these ports. And everything was played so, so well. And I think that might have been one of the cleanest performances we've seen from a team throughout the first week of the UKEL.
And you know what we were saying about the first game of Thursday? We're talking about sometimes you can just chalk up a loss to it kind of got to late game with like everyone's scaled and suddenly one misstep or one moment of inspiration can win or lose you a game. That's the abstract problem solving. And in those last 2 minutes, that was a really prime example of how to do that well. You have the correct information, you trust in the members with your individual power, and it seemed like every single person on that Demise lineup found their piece in those last couple of minutes, and it slotted into a very clean victory.
And looking at Monster Rugby Gaming, they are going to be coming out of this one 0-2 in the first week, but there needs to be some work done with this, with these players. There needs to be a little bit more communication. They have looked outclassed in both of the games we've seen from them so far, but I would say that there's definitely promising signs, right? Goose is playing the top side in the 1v1 where he played it number perfectly in order to get the kill, was very, very good. There were some good signs from Kevin Van in a couple of those fights as well, but they were just outclassed today.
They were, but it does come down to the fact of when you've got Hive Monster going 0-2. No one remembers the first week. If you make it into playoffs and you start doing well there, just use this as a learning experience. You can't let this snowball into anything more. There are enough games, of course. We've got 14 games. It's a double round robin. You get the chance to take revenge on these teams when it comes to it. Use this, learn, come back stronger.
Well, apparently we've got a standings graphic that we can look at. We know it's only week 1, and we know that no one's going to remember this coming towards the end of the season, but there's already a little bit of a gap being drawn. Demise Academy, London United, and Nerd Rage all sitting on 2-0. High Central, Monster Rugby Gaming, and Viperio all have some ground to make up if they want to be fighting. But remember, the top 6 teams this time around do go to playoffs, and I know it's mad to start discussing that after only 2 games of 14, but the teams at the top, it's very good in that all of them deserve to be there. It hasn't been a case of you're 2-0 because your opponents didn't show up, because all of the teams this season so far have shown up. We've had incredible games across the board, and that's not going to let up going into week 2. Now that we've kind of got these teams that need to be scrapping to survive at the top and keep themselves undefeated, the teams at the bottom needing to pick up wins to not get dragged into a relegation battle, it's going to be all to play for the entire season.
And so often when you do have 6 out of 8 teams in a league going into playoffs, you will get really, really close in across the entire pack. You might have one team that pops off, goes completely undefeated. But when it comes to like that 5th, 6th, 7th place spot, I mean, I've seen what we saw in, the LEC last year, we saw all 10 teams being able to make playoffs the last week. That's a 10-team league. When we've got teams where we know there's a lot of talent spread out across it. We know there's work to be done. We know that the meta is changing. People are finding their comfort zones. Dropping a random game, unluckily or deservedly, right? It can end up coming back to bite you in the last part of playoffs, which is why going forward, you need to take the learning experiences. You need to start working yourself up and ramping yourself up now and trying to just build yourself up as the weeks go on.
Well, there's a little bit of time for teams to do that because we are done for our first week. Amazing games, and all of them were actually really, really exciting to watch. So if you've missed any of them, make sure you run back and check those out. They'll all be available in VODs down below. And we're going to be back on Thursday for even more action from the UK.
Can't get rid of us.
Sure. Make sure you're there, 6 p.m. That's when we're going to be kicking things off. And it looks like if you look at the fixtures that are on the website, there are some cracking games next week as well. But from myself, Vipero, and from Nymera, from the entire UKEL team, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you on Thursday.